What's going on, Drinking Buddies? Brand new podcast coming right at you, but you know what we got to do first? We got to talk about those things that generate a little revenue for the show, and bring in a little bit of the cheddar, pay the liquor bills, pay the bar tabs, and you know how it goes. First and foremost, we are brought to you by the Patreon at patreon.com/Matt Slayer. Did you know that you can support this show for as little as $3 a month, less than the cost of a beer? For a little bit more, just a tiny tad bit more. You can get this audio ad-free. You can get the video versions a week early, uncensored. There's a bunch of bonus content that I need to edit that is going up real soon. I have not decided what tier level that's going to be at, but that is going to be coming down the pipe real soon. I'm pretty happy with it. You get to watch a bunch of your favorite performers do shots of Malort with me, and for a lot of them, it is their first shot of Malort. If you're uncertain of what Malort is, Google it. You will not be disappointed. But come support the show at patreon.com/Matt Slayer and help us bring And Now We Drink to you every week. We are also brought to you by the merch store at anwd.net/merch. Constantly making new designs. If you watched a recent video episode, you may have seen me rocking the Metal Mofo ANWD hat. I'm pretty happy with the designs. The hats are amazing quality. I was actually blown away by our partners, the quality of the hats. So go pick up some merch at anwd.net/merch. Last, but certainly not least, the two easiest ways to support this show. Both cost you nothing and just a little effort on your part. The first is go to the YouTube channel. youtube.com/nowwedrink. Like, subscribe, the typical YouTuber stuff. The other real easy way to support this show is Signal Boost. Tell your friends, share social media. Let people know the show exists. Enough rambling, let's get on with the show. My guest this week is adult performer Hime Marie. Trigger warning for the regular drinking buddies. So there's some Japan talk. There's definitely some Japan talk. Beyond that, we definitely get into the weeds of talking about the biz. He may also share some kind of rough stories. Food, travel. This is just a lot of fun. If you couldn't tell by the 2.5-hour runtime. Instead of just describing it to you, we're just going to play the show. So sit back, relax, pop a cold one, and enjoy, Drinking Buddies. On.
Not a whole lot. Thank you for having me here.
My absolute pleasure. We're doing some day drinking today.
Yes. It's not something I do too often, so you're very lucky. You've caught me at a rare moment where I feel I'm up for that.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it.
Doing it. I'm pouring myself one. And, I had to bring out the good bottle for you.
Thank you. Hime means princess in Japanese, so I'm a princess.
Oh, shit. I should have grabbed the Japanese bottle then.
Oh, do you have like a Yamazaki or something?
No, it's just some random duty-free bottle I grabbed on the way when I was leaving Tokyo last year.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
We're going to have to talk about that.
I know. I know. My audience is going to roll their eyes, though, because I start geeking out on Japan all the time.
We're going to have a great time about that because I've been to Japan several times, and I fucking love it.
Me too.
I love it so much.
How many times you been?
4.
4? Oh, you got me beat. I've only been 3.
Huh?
I've only been 3 times, so.
Oh, man. Japan. Love it. I mean, that's why I'm called Hime.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I still have a, gaijin name, but
You did a lot better than most people did. But cheers to having me.
Cheers.
Thank you.
I went last November because the minute they reopened to American tourists, I'm like, gotta go back.
Yeah, I've never been. That's a lie. I actually did go in October one time. It gets pretty cold out there.
Yeah, but it was fine. I mean, especially because I have to cover tattoos. I was wearing long sleeves all the time anyways.
Oh, really? You know what? When I recently went, they've been a little bit more lax about the tattoo thing because I think in general today it's really hard to find people in general who don't have tattoos. So
I didn't want to take the risk. Like the first trip I was there, sorry audience has heard this probably multiple times at this point. I was there with my tattoo artist who had face and neck tattoos, and we got kicked out of a lot of places.
really,
Yeah.
what year was this?
2013?
Yeah, I could kind of see back then that would still be a problem. Because when I first went, I went to a ryokan, like the like hot spring like hostel, and there was like a disclaimer that said if you have tattoos, you would have to get your own private bath. You can't like be in the co-ed or whatever areas. So yeah.
One of my guys on the trip in 2016 went to get a day pass for a gym, and he had to sign basically an affidavit saying he didn't have tattoos.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
So weird. But yeah, in October, or you went in November.
Yeah.
Was that a good time?
Oh, it was a blast. It was an absolute blast. Like, did 2 podcasts there, drank a bunch, ate.
Some really good food.
Yeah, it's hard to find a bad meal.
It's really hard to find a bad meal in Japan. You can walk in anywhere, and it's probably going to be good. So,
when was your first trip to Japan?
oh, mine was actually like 2013, 2014 as well. It was kind of like my little graduation gift to myself out of high school because I worked my ass off at my job like my whole senior year in high school, and I was like, I really want to go to Japan, so I'm gonna do it. And I got my passport and I did it, and I went for 2 weeks the first time. And the first time you go to Japan is it's life-changing because you just realize like, wow, there's a whole civilized world out there where people like dress nice and are polite to each other and keep everything clean and just like function well for the most part as a society, you know?
Oh yeah, my first trip there, the first thing I said like after like a day there was like, oh, America's the number 1 marketed country on the planet. We are not necessarily number 1 at everything.
Oh yeah.
After riding the Tokyo subway system, I'm like, why is a country that speaks a completely different language, it's easier to get around on their subways than it is in New York City?
Or it's just like, why is this not in LA? Like,
well,
something like this.
I would settle for some semblance of a fucking public transit system in LA.
Yeah. Yeah, if any place needs it, it's LA.
Well, you know we had one at one point, right?
Don't you still kind of have one?
I mean, but we actually had like a fairly robust one.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, in the 1920s, like there were streetcars that you could take a streetcar all the way up to Malibu.
Oh.
And between AAA, General Motors, and Firestone, they bought it up, privatized it, and took it out of service.
That was more of like a San Francisco thing.
Oh no, LA.
LA.
Have you ever seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
It's been years.
But
years and years.
The fucked up part about it is it's kind of based on reality that, Judge Dredd bought up the red car to build highways. That's what actually happened in LA. It's like, oh, they took a real life thing that happened and fictionalized it.
Yeah, made it a cartoon.
And made it for kids.
Yeah.
It's like, have you ever seen Chinatown?
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's Roman Polanski directed it. It's with Jack Nicholson. It's from the 70s. It's like a classic film noir. And the plot of the movie is that they're diverting water from Owens Valley to Los Angeles so LA could have enough water, which is also a thing that actually happened.
Yeah, I've like heard the name of the movie, but
So I often joke that Who Framed Roger Rabbit is Chinatown for kids.
Yeah, that's how it would seem.
But yeah, Japan is just, it was mind-boggling.
It really is. It's life-changing. That's the best word I could use to describe it. So
what made you decide that you wanted to go there over anywhere else after high school?
Well, I was pretty nerdy in high school. Let me just preface this by saying I was into like anime, J-pop, K-pop, all that stuff before it was really cool. And a lot of people back then would kind of be like, why are you listening to music you don't even understand? That's stupid, and times have really changed quite a lot, like with how big K-pop is now. But I was really into all that stuff. And I just wanted to go to Japan because it looked amazing, and I had several friends who had been as well. They were like friends online that I had talked to and kept in touch with, and they just talked about how amazing it was, and I saw their pictures, and I was like, I'm gonna do that, and I did, and ended up going several other times after.
Hell yeah. You had a much better reason for going than I did.
Why?
I literally had 2 weeks off from my day job at the time, and I needed to go somewhere because it was Christmas and New Year's. I needed to go somewhere where it was like, we're going to go where they don't really celebrate Christmas. fuck it, I'll go to Japan.
Yeah, you weren't wanting to do Christmas. Was it just like trying to avoid like
I'm a
family
Jew,
or-
so
Oh, okay. Well,
so like the holiday season's never had like a big deal to me. It's like so many Christmases over the course of my life have just been like movie day with other Jews or just chilling by myself. It's like it's not a thing. So it's just like, oh, I got 2 weeks off. Yeah, they don't celebrate Christmas in Japan, and I'm wrong. They do celebrate.
they do. They celebrate all the holidays in Japan. They celebrate, and they're very serious about Halloween too. Because when I went in October, oh my God, the Halloween stuff was everywhere. Everywhere in the 7-Elevens, like in donut shops. We even like went to Disneyland around that time in Japan, and it was great. They love their holidays. So
Which is crazy to me because they're such a work hard, play hard culture. Like so many people like just work.
yeah, and that's why, because I had a Japanese teacher when I did a few semesters in college, and she basically said the same thing. Like, we're gonna take every holiday that we can get in Japan because we work so much, and any excuse that we can get to spend time with family or just have time off, we're gonna take it. So
It's one of those things where like I've often been like, oh, I'd love to, and I'm like, only if I could remotely work for an American company. I don't want to work for a Japanese company. I don't want.
seems intimidating.
Yeah, just a lot.
A lot of probably very high standards too.
Well, and it's also one of those things where like, as much as it's awesome to be a tourist there, it's a lot of fun. You have to accept that if you're living there and you're not Japanese, you're always going to be a second class citizen to some degree.
I was thinking about that this last trip to Japan, and I think COVID kind of changed a lot of things for Japan as well. Like, everyone, unless you weren't like kind of out in the nightclubby area or the really young, hip parts of town, everyone looked so glum and like sad. And I was just thinking, like, man, I bet living here would be a lot different than just being a tourist here,
Yeah, imagine some apartment that's like the size of our recording space right now is like your whole living space.
Yeah. Yeah, we stayed in some really tiny spaces. We're there, so.
And it's one of those things where like, I love that while I'm visiting there because it gives you zero excuse to stay in your room. You're just like, I'm going out.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you only go to your room to sleep. So you sleep and shower. It's basically all you need it for.
Yeah, the first time I was there, I made the mistake of staying at the Ritz-Carlton.
But that could be nice in Japan, though.
Oh, no, it
was
was
very nice.
It was super fucking nice. It was too nice. We didn't go out for like 2 nights.
I would love that, though. Because, I don't know, I feel like I've had the whole Japan experience. I'm like, I would like a nice bougie Japan experience to see what that would be like.
It was fun. It was definitely fun, but it was also like I had a little bit of guilt. It was just like, oh, I should have been out last night, but oh, so comfortable. And after walking as much as you walk there, it was just like that bed was like, oh, heaven.
I'm sure. Beds and like nice deep bathtubs, like in Japan, that you could just take a nice good soak. It's like every bathtub in Japan is nice.
Oh, I love their bathrooms. It's like, oh, I can spray water all over this thing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great like design too. Great design.
So have you thought about going there to like spend an extended trip, do some work there?
I did do some work there this last time I went.
Nice.
I went in April, and I did do some work, and I worked with Makoto's crew. This was like my first time meeting Makoto, and he was great. He's probably like one of my new favorite directors like ever. And it was a super awesome experience. And I wish that every experience could be like that one on a Japanese set. I was waited on hand and foot and just treated like an absolute princess all day. I loved it.
Nice. What are the big differences between a Japanese set and an American set?
I just feel like on the Japanese set, they're very considerate and caring and just constantly checking in to make sure that I'm okay, anything I need. They gave me robes, slippers, like abundance of like food, more than I could ever want and ask for. And there are a few sets like this, in the US that definitely cater to you in this way. But in Japan, it seems like that's just the standard there, and that's the norm. And the male talents were so polite and kind of shy too. They were like very shy and sweet. And yeah, I think it was a really good day because in one day we did 2 like completely different looks on me, very unique looks, and we shot 2 different scenes, and they were like very well done and elaborate scenes. And that's like a testament to how efficient they work as well, that we were able to shoot 2 whole scenes in the day and still like be done by like 8 p.m. and go get dinner. That was amazing.
That's wild, because I've definitely been on set with directors where it's like, oh, this definitely shouldn't have been a 16-hour day, but it was a 16-hour day.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I've had a few of those recently. But you know what? That's when you're like, I want to keep getting hired, so I'm going to do this and not complain.
Right, I'm going to smile, nod, get a bottle of water, look at my phone, whatever I got to do.
Maybe a Red Bull if I have to. Yeah.
Yeah. And the worst is when you have those days and it's like, it's not even because male talent's failing or anything like that. It's just like disorganized crew. Those are the worst.
Yeah, that and just disorganized crew, or sometimes there's just some things you really can't control, like on set. Like stuff stops working. They like need things to be a certain way. It can't be any other way, and it takes a long time to get things set up perfectly. Wardrobe, something happens, you're wearing all white, maybe your outfit gets covered in makeup and you still have like a whole other segment to shoot. Like there's so much stuff that slows things down.
There's a lot of moving parts on a mainstream set. And I remember for me, the worst one was during the pandemic. We were shooting up in Calabasas and like the house just lost power.
I've had that happen before, but thankfully it was only for like a few seconds and we all just stood there in silence, like, okay, I guess maybe we're not working today. And
yeah, this one was for the rest of the day, and it was one of those things where it was in December, so we had very limited daylight. Like one of the scenes the setup was supposed to start on a couch and then move to a bedroom, and it's like, oh, the bedroom has no windows, no natural lights coming in. I guess the sex is happening on the couch, and we're just shooting as fast as possible.
What do you do if like camera batteries die? How do you recharge them? What do you do then?
There was a lot of just shooting it as fast as we
yeah.
Thankfully the shooter, I was just PAing, so the shooter was on his own batteries, but like it was nerve-wracking to say the least.
But it sounds like you guys still pulled it together and made it work.
Talking to the talent on doing this a couple of years after the fact, she's like, I watched that whole, because it was a fucking feature, so it's like I watched the other 3 scenes and they're all beautifully lit and beautiful, and then my scene's dark as shit. I'm like,
Yep, shit happens.
Yep. Sometimes it's not like we got mainstream budgets to be like, oh, okay, we're just gonna reshoot on a following day.
Once in a great while they'll do that, but not often.
Yeah,
not often.
And I feel like that's something like a MindGeek or one of the big companies is doing that.
Yeah, where it's like, we have to get this.
Yeah, versus
I've been on a couple scenes like that where it's like, we really need to get this. Can you please come back? And you do it.
Yeah.
You do it because you want to be a good talent.
It's show business. It
is. Yeah, and so, people think this is an easy job and it's a cakewalk, but yeah, as you said, a lot of moving parts to the whole thing.
Well, and it's wild because even on people just doing like OnlyFans or camming and shit like that, they're like, oh, it's such an easy job. You're just, showing your genitals to a camera. Like, bro, do you even know how to properly expose a shot?
Yeah. Yeah, not only that, or it's just like, yeah, it's all tough. Like sex work in general is not a cakewalk, I think.
Oh, not at all. And not even like, I'm just talking from the purely technical end of it. Not even like the social stigma and the other shit that comes with it. Like the other negative drawbacks of doing the work itself. Just the actual work is not necessarily easy.
It's not. It's not. But looping back around, Japan was amazing. The scenes I shot there were amazing, and yeah, it was a great experience. And I do wish more Western sets were kind of like that. But it was so great. And shout out to Makoto. You're fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing. So.
Any plans to go back?
It's tempting. I would really love to. It's just I can only justify going if I spend 2 to 3 weeks there, because it's like, why would you spend any less time in Japan? And I just don't know if I can justify taking that much time off of work again.
Just work while you're there.
It's such a long flight. I could set up work, but it's just it's until it's only like a few companies, really. And like I kind of need to I don't know everyone there. I just know a few people, so it would be a matter of kind of figuring out who do I talk to,
Oh, I think you should go back for 2 to 3 weeks and network and just be like, oh, we'll set up with the people I know, and then can you introduce me to other people? They got to know everybody, right?
Yeah.
I am just I am the bad idea fairy. I'm just like, yeah, you should just go. Like, I have no idea. Like,
That's also my fear too, is like, oh my God, what if they're like, you're here in our country being a whore. Like, we're going to send you back.
But sex work isn't illegal in Japan.
It's not. No, but I always have all these like, crazy like things in my mind now that I do sex work, because like I would really love to visit Israel one day, but I always think like, oh my God, what if they do a whole background check on me before I go and they find out who I am, and then what if I get there and then they like detain me and I get stuck there? Like, I always have all these things, these crazy ideas in my head that like scare me.
I'm curious. I actually have no idea.
It's probably not a thing, what I said. It's probably not a thing.
I mean, I know Israel does very robust background checks before you enter the country.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, ooh, because I would love to visit the Middle East. That's probably, I've been to Japan several times. I would love to go back. But if it was like a new place I was going to visit, I would really love to go to the Middle East. But yeah, I just it's a little freaky.
It is. Where, besides Israel, where else would you want to go in the Middle East?
Maybe Egypt. See the pyramids, experience history, a little bit. Experience something unfathomable. So, yeah. I think that could be pretty cool.
I think that'd be awesome. It's one of those things where, like, from what I understand, if you're going, I don't know which way it is, but it's like, if you have an Egyptian stamp in your passport, you can't enter Israel, or if you have an Israeli stamp in your passport, you can't enter Egypt. It's one or the other.
God. Why is the world like this? Why? That's so dumb.
Middle Eastern politics, I don't think is the subject matter for this episode.
Probably not.
Pretty rough geopolitical situation.
It's like, we'll just move along.
We'll just scoot along on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where, like, I'd love to visit Israel too, just because I'm Jewish, so it's like, oh, I should go see it. But it's also just like, I'm not real sure like how much the Middle East really appeals. It's like, it'd be cool to see the pyramids, but like outside of maybe Egypt, maybe Morocco, and Israel, it's just like none of the other countries really appeal to me. Like, I really have no interest in going to Saudi Arabia. I have no real interest in going to the Emirates or anything like that. It's just like, oh, these are dry countries. And like, I've had friends who like have done layovers in Abu Dhabi going somewhere else and like been accosted by the police for having public affection with their partner in the airport.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Yeah.
No.
Like, it's just like, I have limited time to travel. Do I really want to go someplace where, like, as an American, I'm already like going to be singled out, and then add in I'm a Jewish American, add in the fact that like I'm not a clean cut businessman.
Mm-hmm.
This is all like, there are better places I could spend my free time.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I think about too. That's the only thing. I think the reason why it fascinates me though is I just want to see things. I really like seeing and just experiencing, and it just made me think of something. Cause like, oh well, why would anyone want to do that? And this kind of made me think of something that happened recently. That whole Titan submersible thing. And everyone was saying, why would anyone want to do that? Why would anyone in their right mind want to go down there and do this, that, and the third? And I really stopped to think about it. And I was like, you know what? If I knew it was 100% safe, I would totally save up $250,000 and go do that. Like, I would, because it's a piece of history, I think, is what appeals to me. And like, the Titanic is like just falling apart. Like, it's not going to be there probably much longer. So I think I would do it just to see and experience. I'm really big on experiences. That's what I will pay good money for, is an experience.
As you should. You fucking should. More people need to, because at the end of the day, what? A flight to Japan and a good time there, or some fucking Gucci bag. That bag's going to fall apart eventually. Mm-hmm. Those experiences, those memories should stick with you till your mind goes.
100%. And speaking of purses, it's like kind of like started this shift in me this year where I've like stopped using a purse, because I've really liked this no purse life of just being able to stick stuff in my pockets and go. And I'm like, is this how guys feel? It feels so free, and I feel so like unobligated. Like, this feels amazing. And so I can't even remember the last time that I've like been out and like carried a little purse around with me.
Wait a minute. Women are allowed to have pockets? I didn't know that was a thing.
I know that's something controversial. That's a controversial topic.
I don't understand why. Like, fashion designers are like, women can't have pockets.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Sometimes I can see how pockets don't always work on women's clothes because it could look bulky, or sometimes it'll like weigh down one side and not the other. So there are some things to it. But yeah, the no purse life has been pretty awesome, I will say. So I got a lot of purses that are getting neglected right now.
Well, and on top of it, you don't have to like keep track of your purse when you go out, go to a restaurant.
It's nice. It's really nice knowing that everything's just like on my person, like in my pockets, and I'm just like good to go. It's a great feeling.
Oh, it 100% is. And as a dude, it's weird for me because like I'll go out and sometimes I want to bring a camera bag with me, and it's like, oh, I got to keep track of that camera bag now, and I'm not used to having things that are off my person that I have to keep track of.
Mm-hmm. I think that's why fanny packs kind of came back around, got popular again, because we need to keep our things on us. We're very forgetful creatures.
Well, especially in the modern era, because phones have killed our attention spans, and they've proven it. They've proven it. The apps are rotting our minds.
Mm-hmm. Yep, very true.
So
very true.
That's why it's like I got to make sure everything's on me, and then sometimes I still forget shit.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I haven't forgotten anything since I've not used a purse. So
good on you.
Very much about that no purse life.
But yeah, back to like the experiences. Like I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. I would rather travel than buy shit.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to see how the world works, because I say this all the time, and sorry to my audience again. I think one of the biggest problems with America is not enough Americans leave America.
Leave America?
Not enough of us do. Not enough of us.
I agree with that. I 100% agree. I think more people need to go and like see other countries and see how other people live and interact with each other.
100%. And also, Americans may have more empathy for other people if they go to other countries and see like, oh, not everyone has a fucking Ralph's a block away where they can get food, or that people are living in abject poverty in other places, and it's just like they may just a little more empathy for other people if you just see that like it's not America everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, it's not America everywhere in America, but that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, 100%. You reminded me of something funny that I kind of read. Ooh, I don't know if I should bring it up. It was just about like a tweet that I read. This was some time back, but it was just kind of about how Americans like when they go other places, especially particularly when it comes to work, they kind of make everything a problem there, but that's simply just because it's different to them. And it's like things are just sometimes some people just do things differently than here in the United States, and it doesn't mean it's bad, it's just different, I
agree. And a lot of things that we do aren't necessarily the best way to do things. And that's one of the things that always bothers me when Americans travel abroad too, is just like, I'm in someone else's country. I should not be expecting them to cater to me in English. I should not expecting English menus. And it's 2023. You can use Google Translate offline. I don't care if you have self-service or not. You can attempt to use their language. You can attempt to translate the fucking menu. Or if you can't translate the menu, point at something and have an adventure.
Yeah. And I did a lot of that in Japan. You do a lot of that in Japan.
Thankfully, there's pictures a lot of times.
Lots of times there's pictures and they all look very tasty, and it's usually very tasty.
Me and my friends on one of the trips ended up in like a little fish spot that was in a neighborhood, like nowhere near a station, like no pictures, no English, no nothing. Like traditional sitting on the floor, no shoes on, mats.
How was it though?
Oh, amazing. It was fucking amazing. Sure. And the way we ordered was, we'll have what they're having.
Yeah.
Like, we have no idea what's on them. We'll just have what they're having. And it was great. Eating a whole fish with chopsticks is a bit of a challenge, though.
Yeah. I would imagine it's probably falling apart a lot.
Oh, I mean, the meat just felt like right off the bone, but it's still like...
It smells so good right now.
And I'm not even usually a cooked fish person. I will fuck some sushi up, but like cooked fish is not generally my jam. This was so good. It was just like, it's really fucking hard to find a bad meal here.
Yeah, in Japan, it's so hard to find a bad meal. I 1000% agree with that. I think that I felt that way in Europe too. I visited this was like pre-pandemic, like right before the pandemic, with my partner. We visited France and Italy, and kind of very similar situation there. You walk in somewhere, it's really hard to find a bad place to eat. Not so much the case in the US.
Yeah. I promise you, there are some places where you can get some mediocre meals in Europe. I promise you.
I'm sure, but like with the neighborhood, we were staying in like very nice neighborhoods, so they were all very nice places.
Honestly, of all the places I've been in Europe, only Amsterdam was the only one that really like disappointed me on food.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what? That's the next place I do want to go is Amsterdam.
You going for XBiz in a couple weeks, or?
A couple weeks? No. Are you kidding? I can't. I mean,
you could.
I knew it was coming up. Oh, so that's what people were talking about. I thought they were talking about XBiz Miami, and I was like, didn't that just happen? Like,
XBiz Amsterdam.
So many XBiz events. Love XBiz though. No. I would love to, but since I took I took like 3 weeks off for Japan, and yes, it was back in April, but I have that anxiety of, oh my God, I have to work my butt off for the rest of the year now, because I gotta make up for taking all that time off. And so I'm just gonna be working. But hey, I would love to, because it sounds like they're gonna be having a lot of fun parties. And
oh, I'm sure the parties will be amazing, and I'm sure there's a lot of fun to be had. There won't be a lot of good food though.
That's so surprising to me. Okay, what kind of food? Amsterdam it's the Netherlands.
Yep. So Dutch food.
I didn't want to be wrong there. That's how you can tell I'm American,
right? It's like,
yeah,
it's Europe, right? Like, how many Americans are like, oh, I've been to Europe? Like, bro, where have you been in Europe? Like, I've been to Europe.
I've been all over. I've been all over Europe. That's what they say.
Yeah.
And it's like you've been to France.
It's like it's a bunch of very distinct cultures and very different languages.
Yeah.
Yes, it is all smaller than the U.S., but in that space, there's very different cultures.
Yeah, yeah.
There's different architecture.
Yeah.
One of my friends who was there before me was just like, the Dutch they view food as just fuel, so it's not like they take.
Oh my God. I have a Dutch fan who's watching this probably, and he's gonna be like, "How dare you?"
Correct me if I'm wrong. Though I will freely admit, you guys do awesome pancakes, because they do like these crepe style pancakes, and they have savory toppings in them.
I'm sure the sweets they do great.
Oh yeah, they do French fries awesome. A lot of French fries. Like, the savory pancakes were rad as hell. Stroop waffles. Stroop waffles are rad.
So those are like Pop-Tarts, right?
They're little like waffles that you have with your coffee.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It was like super duper sweet, sugary. Yeah.
Like the way you're supposed to have them is like put it over the coffee cup so the heat from the coffee warms them a little bit. Oh yeah, those are rad. But pretty much everything else was pretty mediocre. It was, and also like hanging out in the red light district a bunch. It's just like a lot of shit was just there for tourists. Pre-pandemic Amsterdam, I don't know what it's like now, but it was very much Europe's Vegas.
That's kind of how it seems to me. Europe's Vegas. That's a good way to describe it, I suppose.
Yeah, because imagine you live in Vegas, going down to the Strip and not going to like one of the good restaurants, just like being on the Strip and just grabbing a meal at a random place on the Strip.
Yeah,
probably not gonna be great.
Like at those places that advertise like $12.99 surf and turf. It's like having that food there.
Yeah. We found like one rad steakhouse, but otherwise it was just like Amsterdam, of all the food choices of all the places I've been in Europe, just like bottom tier for sure.
Wow, I wouldn't have expected that, but
I didn't expect it either. And on that trip, we spent more time in Amsterdam than anywhere else. Because on that trip we did Amsterdam, Germany, and I did Finland at the tail end. And the Germans can fucking cook.
I love like German and Bavarian food. One of my favorite places to go in Las Vegas actually is Hofbrauhaus.
Hofbrau's good.
I can fuck up some Hofbrauhaus, man. Like wieners and beer, like my favorite.
So legitimately, you should go to Oktoberfest in Munich at some point.
My parents actually did do that like many, many years ago. And yeah, they pretty much said like the same thing, like that I would probably really enjoy something like that. Cause I think I had like one birthday where I was like, oh, let's go to Hofbräu House. And my parents were like, if you really enjoy this, you would really enjoy. Yeah.
Because you can legitimately go to the actual Hofbrau tent at Oktoberfest, like the real one in Munich.
Isn't the beer warm though?
No, it was after enough of them.
I don't know if I can drink warm beer.
But it, honestly, Oktoberfest isn't as much about the beer as it is the food.
That's true. That's true.
Because we went there like, oh, we're going to get fucked up. And then when we got there, it's like, oh, so unless you have a reservation at a tent, you have to negotiate with every doorman to get in.
Really?
And what they want to know is, are you eating? Because they're limited on what they can sell a beer for. A beer has to be, when I was there in 2017, like 10.25 euros per beer. Like, no matter where you were, that's what a beer costs.
Jeez.
But they could charge whatever the fuck they want for food.
Huh.
So every place like, you eating? We're like, yeah, we're eating. Just pigged out all day. Like, I mean, a lot of drinking was
amazing.
like roast duck, schnitzel, like sausages. The first time we were in, they're bringing around pretzels, and it's just like, I don't know how. The pretzel was room temperature. The big pretzel was room temperature. Perfectly crusty on the outside, perfectly chewy in the middle, but just mind blown.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, like, and it's a big carnival. It's a big fucking carnival. There's rides. There's fucking rides.
And it's in Munich.
Yeah.
Said right? Yeah.
So it's just like, we were just like, oh, we just thought we were going to be day drinking all day. Like, just with a lot of, no, this is a fucking carnival. This is awesome.
Yeah. That does sound fun. I've only been to like, the kind of like shitty American, like little Oktoberfests.
Does not compare.
Where it is basically just like day drinking all day. And like maybe you'll have like a hot dog and,
like, have a bratwurst.
Yeah.
Someone will be in some lederhosen.
Uh-huh.
And at least when I was there, me and one other friend, we rented lederhosen, like real lederhosen. We're in lederhosen. My other two friends like, I'm not wearing that shit. That's embarrassing. We get there. He's like, oh, I wish I'd kind of rented it, because they were the only people like not in
it. Yeah. That's so fun. They got FOMO.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So I highly recommend going.
Yeah, I would. I should visit Germany one day. I'm half German. I don't really know a whole lot about my German heritage, though. I visited my grandparents recently to try and, like, get them to talk to me and open up to me a little bit about, like, hey, so tell me about what life was like when you guys were growing up. Because, they're older, and I just want to, like, hear their stories before they go. And they, like, did not want to, like, talk about the good old days. So
were they born in Germany? Like,
No. They were born in the United States, but my grandfather, his father was from Germany, and then his mom was from Mexico. I have like a lot of Mexican and German specifically heritage. It's very interesting, and yeah, they just they didn't really want to talk about it that much. But they like converted to Mormonism, so they just want to talk about their own like Church of Latter-day Saints stuff and just really focus heavily on that and not really anything else,
That's a bummer, because both my grandparents are passed at this point, but one of the things that was kind of enjoyable for me as an adult was my grandfather started getting fucking loose towards the end there. He just
would just fire off.
He was just telling, he fought in World War II, and he was just like telling stories about hooking up with girls in the war and shit.
That's what I want.
Right.
That's what I want to hear. But they were like, no, they were like, oh, we don't remember anything. We were too young. We don't remember anything from like World War II, whatever. No, we don't remember. Like, they just don't really want to talk about it.
That's a bummer. Like, It's like, come on, guys, you have a limited time on this planet. Let me like pass on your stories, and like, that's how you get to live on.
Yeah.
I'm an atheist. I don't think there's a kingdom of heaven that you're going to be telling these stories in later on. Like, you might as well get them out now while you're still here.
Yeah. Yeah, they were just talking about like their church newsletter and stuff. So I was like, all right, well, if that's what's important to you, then that's okay. So.
Is it though?
I suppose.
I mean, if it makes them happy.
What are you sipping on? That?
I'm drinking Elijah Craig.
Can I try some?
Of course. Self-service on the second pour.
Okay, I'm scared, but
it's okay. It won't bite.
It might.
But that's after you pour it. It might bite.
Yes.
Not during the pour.
It might. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, What's your experience really in the industry? So I heard you say that you were like PAing on set, and you obviously have the whole thing. Have you done like camera and like sound regularly, or?
Once in a blue moon. It's one of those things where like, nobody else is ready. Hey, Matt, you around?
That's always nice.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like, sorry, once again for the audience who's heard this a bunch of times, because people are like, oh, why is he telling the same stories over and over again? But she doesn't know.
I haven't heard these stories yet, so let me hear them.
So I've been in for over a decade at this point. I started off, met some people in Chicago that worked for Burning Angel, ended up roadieing for girls at like feature gigs and conventions and shit like that. And in 2011, a director from Amsterdam, he was just like, I'm opening a studio in Vegas, move west. And I went, fuck it, I got nothing keeping me in Chicago. I'm a big film nerd. I didn't know anyone who did mainstream. This was like, I'm like, oh, well, this is an opportunity to try to make something. And yeah.
And here you are.
10 years later, I'm a podcaster. Or, Jesus, almost 13 years later, I'm a podcaster.
Yeah. And so you came to LA, but did you ever live in Vegas?
I did.
At any point? Oh, so you did.
Yeah, I was in Vegas from 2011 to 2014.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's where I live now. So did you have any favorite spots that you liked out there?
Capo's on Sahara.
Capo's?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that like Italian restaurant? I feel like I might have been there one time.
It looks like a bar, but when you get inside, it's actually like a speakeasy with a good Italian restaurant.
Yes. Long time ago. I think I was already like kind of inebriated by the time I got there.
Inebriate people in Vegas? Yeah. Never.
Well, now that I live there, I'm not very inebriated often because I actually got to work and do stuff. But on rare occasions, I do go out and have a little bit of fun. But usually try to avoid the Strip. I like my nice little like local Henderson spots.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Like once you live there, you never go anywhere near the Strip except maybe on restaurant week or maybe for a concert at Mandalay or some shit.
Like if you have people visiting a lot, and they want to go, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'll show you around.
I try to talk them out of it.
I don't, because they want to do that, and sometimes it's fun. But yeah, I don't try to talk them out of it because that's what they want to do. Like people want the Strip Vegas experience.
I know, but I despise it at this point, and it's one of those things that I'm not really good at putting on that smiley like, oh yeah, I'm having fun face. So I would rather just try to convince them to somewhere where I'm not going to be miserable, or recommend places they go and meet up with them after they're done.
Yeah.
Because do you really want your friend there who's just like, this sucks. This sucks.
I guess.
Like, I recognize that about myself. So I'm not trying to bring down your good time. I'm just going to meet up with you after it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Though I will go to Fremont at a drop of a hat.
Ooh, I don't know if you really want to go to Fremont these days. It's gotten a little rough.
I know.
Like more than normal. It seems like there's always something happening on Fremont, whether it's a fight, a shooting, a brawl, something.
See, for me, the first couple times I went to Vegas, like as a tourist, I think the first time I was there was like 2004. I just went to Fremont. I hung out on the Strip and like, this is a little too adult Disneyland for me.
Mm-hmm.
Went down to Fremont like, oh, this is properly sketchy. Cool.
Fremont can be really fun. Like if there's like a good live band they're playing, and there's like some really good like flair bartenders like out there, and you can like order like an elaborate drink like a Long Island, and then they'll do the whole flair thing, and that's always really fun. Those are the memories that I have. But I also just remember like just a lot of scary people down there, and during the height of COVID, like some lady like yelling in my face like this close, and it was I was like, please don't.
Yeah. Please don't stop spitting in my mouth.
Yes.
Please.
I was like, I have to work, please.
It's also one of those things like, we are very different sized people.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to have a lot less headaches than you are down there.
That's true. And being like a girl,
Yeah. Like being a large dude who doesn't look like he has a ton of money, like I'm generally okay in most places. It's just like, yeah, that's not worth the headache.
Yeah.
Small girl, yeah, I totally get why you're like, I don't want to go to Sketchy Land.
I mean, if I'm with like, my partner, it's fine. But yeah, usually, even sometimes when I'm with him, we still get hassled. So, yeah.
Well, and that's the one problem with like being a dude with an attractive partner is like sometimes people just want to try you just because you're with an attractive partner. And it's fucked up, but it is what it is.
And I mean, in Vegas, people get that little bit of liquid courage too. It plays a big part in it. I would say, but I like Vegas, and obviously it's good for work. And I've lived there for about 2 years now, and before that, I lived like all over the West Coast. Basically, I've lived like around here. I grew up in Albuquerque, lived in Arizona for a minute, and now, yeah, I'm in Vegas. But it's starting to feel like LA is almost a second home since I'm here a lot for work.
Has Vegas been your favorite place so far?
No, you know what? My favorite place so far where I lived is when I used to live in Tustin. And it's so weird how this life is kind of funny like this. I lived in Tustin for 5 years. That's like Orange County near Irvine. And I was living well without of my means. Like a job that like, I had to have two jobs at one point, like still barely like supporting myself living out there. Was like with a really shitty dude at the time. And like that was like I was like super miserable, but I would still like choose to live there because it was so beautiful and there were like so many great restaurants and things and like resources and just stuff to do around there. So I would totally live there again in a heartbeat if I could probably live there today within my means, but I kind of like my money a lot, and as we were talking about earlier, I'd rather spend it on other stuff. I can always visit Orange County, like.
Exactly. And that's the thing. More disposable income, more places you can go.
Mm-hmm.
I recently thought about making the move back to Vegas, and at this point, I'm not pulling the trigger. I'm staying in LA, but it was just like looking at rentals, like, oh, I can rent a whole fucking house in Vegas with a pool for less than my rent on this apartment.
And live like a king. That's one thing I love about like Arizona, Las Vegas. Like you can live very luxuriously out there, so it's very nice.
Yeah, the thing that could stop me from pulling the trigger was just like I get a lot of random work from just being in LA.
That's true. That's true too. That's something I always think about as well. Like, oh man, I work so much in LA, and anytime I'm just here, like stuff just comes up at any given time. But I just don't know if I can do it out here. Because even just when I was living in Orange County, I felt like I spent half of my life just in my car, waiting in traffic, waiting to do the next thing, waiting at the DMV, like on a wait list for classes. I just feel like living in California is a lot of waiting.
It's our national fucking pastime. It's like that and watching car chases is what people in LA do.
Yeah, you just wait around and watch car chases.
I'm surprised they haven't like made car chase merch yet.
Yeah. And waiting in line at Disneyland too. I just realized that.
Well, anywhere. They're like, I don't get it. People wait in line to go to fucking In-N-Out.
Oh, but I really like In-N-Out.
But wait in line to go to In-N-Out like it?
I think it's worth it. There was one time I waited 45 minutes in an In-N-Out line, and I was like, okay, I might have made a bad decision, but you know how you're like in the middle and you're like, well,
it's almost there. I can see it.
Yeah. That was one time I was like, okay, this might have been a bad decision this time.
I like In-N-Out quite a bit, but the nearest one is like one of the busiest ones in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Like the Hollywood one is literally one of the busiest ones in the state. It's like, nah, I'm cool.
I do agree there probably are better burger places, but I do really like In-N-Out because there's none of that in like Albuquerque where I grew up.
Which is crazy because they're in Texas.
Yeah, well, I think Albuquerque's developing a little bit more now, but when I lived there was nothing. There were like 2 shopping malls in my city, and there was no Cheesecake Factory. We didn't have a Nordstrom, but we had a Nordstrom Rack. And there was just like no like kind of bigger name fashion. There was like no Dry Bar, like the names that we're kind of used to out here in LA. There was none of that in New Mexico. And when I like got out of Albuquerque and I came to LA and was like, wow, there's like a whole world out there. This is crazy. That was crazy to me.
I just love that the Cheesecake Factory is your measure of civilization.
It is. It's very. I feel like everywhere has a cheesecake factory, but Albuquerque did not. According to one of my friends, they do now. But when I lived there my whole life, they did not have a cheesecake factory. They did not even have a Nordstrom. So we had Dillard's. So that's something.
There's a Cheesecake Factory in the Coronado Center in Albuquerque.
Okay, that's my old neighborhood, the Coronado Center. I hope that mall's nicer now because it was not nice.
Well, they have a Cheesecake Factory. It has to be nice, right?
I've seen cheesecake factories in some bad malls.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm being silly. I do have them.
When I first moved to LA and or Orange County and I like started working in like a mall that had a cheesecake factory, it was life-changing to me because I was like, there's this place I can go and get my lunch and I can get anything, and it was just so
And it'll feed you for days.
Yeah. I was like, and it's a lot of food too. So
I know, I agree. Like, as a broke 20-year-old, like, the Cheesecake Factory was my jam. It's just like,
yeah.
Oh, this is going to feed me for 2 or 3 meals for this price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved it. It was truly life-changing when I was, like, broke at my minimum wage job, which was Tony and Guy working the front desk.
Nice. So what brought you from Albuquerque to LA?
The shitty boyfriend, really, the shitty dude.
Was he already out here, or did you move with him?
I moved to be with him. That whole story is honestly like, it's a really slimy, messed up kind of story. But yeah, shitty dude like manipulated me from like a really young age. I met him online, which is like never good. Snuck around, did a lot of stuff behind my parents' back. And then eventually, like, I was already turning 18, so I was like, well, I'm going to go be with this guy. So there was nothing that...
We're in love.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to go be with this guy. We're in love. And I ended up... We kind of were, like, on and off for, like, 5 years until things got really bad. And so then I moved to Arizona after that to be with my family because they eventually all realized, like, yeah, New Mexico kind of sucks. So we're going to go somewhere a little better. So we'll go to Arizona. And I liked Arizona when I did eventually move there. I liked it a lot.
So, I've never been a fan of Arizona. I never have. Like,
it's not for everyone. It's not. It can be kind of boring for some people. But
every time I've been to like the Phoenix area, I just am like, this is all the bad parts of Vegas with none of the good.
I can see that a little bit, but I think I like kind of, my parents lived in a really nice area, and then I like, I don't know, I always really liked it. And like Tempe is like a really fun like college town that I would spend a lot of time in.
I mean, there were definitely fun spots. I've definitely had some good times in Arizona, but it was also just like, it felt like a lot of the Phoenix metropolitan area was strip malls and subdivisions. Like, it just didn't feel like a city. It just felt like a giant suburb. And that's how Vegas feels to me too. Once you get away from the strip, is like, this is just one big suburb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And growing up in Chicago, like, I'm definitely like a scummy urban kid. So like, it feels out of my comfort zone to be like, why do all the houses look the same? Why? I need a city.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking people that enjoy it. Like, if you're not hurting anybody, enjoy it. This is just my shitty opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, yeah, it's not for everybody, but I really liked it when I lived there. But yeah, the shitty dude is what initially brought me out to California that first time. And this was like around 2013 to 20... Oh, no, it must have been before that. Must have been a little less time than that because it was like 2013 to 2017-ish. So maybe it was 4 years or maybe even 3 because we were very on and off. And there was a lot of like, we're breaking up and I'm moving back to Arizona. Oh, we're back together and I'm moving back to LA. Oh, we're like, there was just...
That sounds traumatic.
That happened like 2 or 3 times and it was so stupid. Until like we eventually like separated for like a really long time. He like fucked up real bad. And I was like feeling really, really low about myself. And that's when I was living in Arizona and I eventually picked up the webcamming because I was like, really, it wasn't even for the money at first. I was like, I just see all these cute cam girls on Instagram and it looks like they're having so much fun. They're so pretty. They're just like having fun online. They get to have all these pretty little neon lights and take cute pictures all day. Like I want to do that. And so I was like, I'm going to try it. And that's kind of how the sex work started.
Nothing wrong with, well, plenty wrong with how you got there, but, nothing wrong with where after you're there.
Yeah. I eventually, like, I didn't think it was gonna, like, become, like, now where I'm, like, a full-on adult entertainer. But, I mean, I wouldn't really have it any other way, though, either.
Once you pull the Band-Aid off and you're willing to, like, be outside of societal norms, why go back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it is like a little scary at first because you think like, oh my God, I'm doing something so wrong. This is so wrong. What if my family found out? Oh my God, what would they think? But then you just realize it's kind of stupid that we think that way because like a body's a body,
For sure. Did you really think it was like, did you have guilt? Did you feel it was wrong when you started?
A little bit, but that's because my parents, they're fairly religious, kind of more my mom than my dad. And I feel like my dad just kind of just appeases her more than anything. And yeah, so there was like the religious thing. I mean, I haven't been really that religious in a long time, but I was like, oh man, if they knew what I was doing, they're gonna like the I'm going to hell like conversations are just gonna be relentless. And eventually when they found out, they kind of were, but yeah.
Were you ever legitimately worried that you were going to hell? Not like their judgment, but like
No. I stopped adhering to the Christian stuff like a really long time ago. I was like in my like rebellious like kind of high school phase and they were like forcing me to go to church. And here's a tip for all like the parents out there, like forcing your kids into submission usually doesn't work. Hence I do porn now. So like maybe don't try to do that to your kids. Just a little piece of advice.
you're never going to convince someone that like they want to be part of your thing through force, like through coercion. They're going to resent you even if they placate you.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild to me. They're like, oh yeah, we're just going to try to shove this down your throat and expect you to like, no. The minute you have autonomy, you're like, peace.
Oh, absolutely. All it took for me was really having to be on the internet for like a little while. I just like, as soon as my parents got me my own laptop and I was able to like do a little bit of my own research by myself, like everything that they had taught me went like completely out the window. I was like, wow. I was like, there's a whole world of people out there and they're saying stuff that actually like makes more sense than what my parents have been telling me my whole life. Like, so.
Oh yeah. Religion doesn't hold up to any sort of scrutiny once you look at it from like a logical standpoint. Like,
and like I just want to say here, I'm not knocking anybody who like finds comfort in Christianity or religion. That's totally fine if it gives you comfort and helps make your life a little easier. Nothing wrong with that. I think it's the trying to get other people to adhere to your way.
100%.
That's the fucked up thing,
As I regularly say on here, I am a proponent of do whatever the fuck you want with your life as long as you're not harming other people. Mm-hmm. Forcing someone to try to adhere to your rules and your laws is harm.
Mm-hmm.
Is 100% harm. Because traditionally, I come from a Jewish family. How would you feel if I'm like, no pork for you? None. You can't work on Friday. Well, actually, a lot of people would probably be down with the Sabbath. Well, that's a bad example. Like, you can't work Friday nights. Fuck. No pork. Or, hell, if you want to be traditional to, like, the New Testament, like, you can't mix cloth and leather. Like, you can't mix fabrics.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, my partner brings that one up too. Another really funny one that I like to say is because I've never said this to my mom yet, but I would love to see what she would say to this. Because she's always like, women, you need to be wholesome and holy, and uphold like this certain standard, whatever. And I would be like, okay, if that's what I need to do to get into heaven, why are there no female angels in the Bible? They're all men. There's never a manifestation of a female angel. They've all been men. So does that mean I don't get into heaven anyway? because
Well, and what about all the whores that Jesus used to hang with?
Yeah.
Jesus hung with whores. That was his jam.
Mhm.
He liked to wash their feet.
yeah,
Are you telling me Jesus washed your feet and you still don't get into heaven?
yeah. So
Well, and then you also look at the fact that, like, how many billions of Indians and Chinese are there? And how many of them are not Christian?
mm-hmm.
If the Judeo-Christian God is the one true God, why are you letting a good chunk of the population not believe in you?
Yeah. Yeah, huge chunk, like huge. And it's like and like this kind of goes back to what I was saying, like when I got my first laptop, that's what kind of changed things for me, because then I did start researching on like other religions and like Hinduism, and I learned that like Hinduism is actually the oldest religion in the world, and you see like, you know, so many connections and like so many similarities between it all, where it's like everyone's really trying to tell the same story at the end of the day. There's just a bunch of different iterations of it. That's kind of what it comes down to.
Well, and I've said this plenty of times too. The shit made sense back in the day. Back in like the tribes fighting over resources days, made fucking sense. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Let's not murder each other. We're all on the same team here. Because that's what happens when you covet his wife. One of us has got to go.
Yep.
Thou shalt not kill. We got to have strength in numbers here. It made sense in like Judaism and Islam. Don't eat pork, because undercooked pork back in the day will fucking kill you.
Yeah.
These are all things that like,
It makes sense for the time period.
right. And like,
Yeah, we're not like troglodytes anymore. Why are we living like this?
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Pork is delicious. I had pork chops for breakfast.
Oh, that sounds so good.
They're really good.
Mm-hmm.
Some Cajun spice rub on them. Oh.
Were they like leftover pork chops, or like you just?
No, I made them.
Oh, that's even better. You're like, I'm gonna have pork chops. I don't care what time it is.
I had pork chops and eggs for breakfast.
I've done that before too. I've like woken up in the morning and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make pho. I was like, I really want chicken pho, and it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I'm gonna start now, and it'll be ready by like 9 o'clock, and it was fantastic.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they call it breakfast because it's supposed to break the fast. It does. Like, what Americans typically eat for breakfast is marketing. Honestly, it was, I believe, like pig farmers in the 20s and 30s pretty much marketed to us that breakfast sausage and bacon was a thing that people ate for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, before that, Americans didn't eat bacon at breakfast.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not a big breakfast food person. I never have been. It's like I don't know, it's too heavy in the morning. But like give me a couple hours and then I can like smash anything.
Well, I'm always down with throwing down with breakfast food in the middle of the night. Like, late night breakfast food.
I feel like that's a bit of an exception though. I feel like most people are kind of like that, because even like back in my like really early cam girl days of like, you know, being on super late, and it would be like 2-3 in the morning, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, I could smash like a plate of breakfast right now.
What is your late night diner throwdown food?
Ooh, for like really late night?
Like, you close the bar, you're a little sloshed.
Oh, like bar food?
Well, no, like, you've left the bar, you know, it's like, oh, let's go hit a diner.
You know what? I get spoiled because I'm in Vegas, because there's a lot of places that are like open kind of later. I like going to the pizza places that like stay open late. There's I know everyone talks about that one at the Cosmopolitan that's really popular. I haven't been there. But there's one at like what used to be the Hard Rock, but is now the Virgin, and that's the pizza place that everyone would go to like after AVN, because it was the only place that was open. I really like that. That's like my go-to.
I've eaten there a lot of times, a lot.
It's good, and their salads are actually really good too. Like usually, like pizza place salads are kind of shitty, but I've gotten like a good Caesar salad from there. So.
Are you really having a Caesar salad after a night out at the bar?
With a pizza, yeah. But that's because I'm like craving the ranch or the sauce more than I am like the vegetables.
You're like, I want the dressing.
Yeah, I'm like, I really just want the dressing more than anything.
The dressing, the salad is just a delivery system for your dressing.
Yes. Uh-huh.
It's kind of like how corn on the cob is really just a delivery system for butter and whatever else you put on it.
Yes. Or honestly, like most nights though, like I don't like, if it's a night out where I'm like already pretty sloshed, I'm usually like, just order Taco Bell. Like, you know, I'm like, just Uber Eats Taco Bell to the house, and I'll usually just like eat my food, half-heartedly wash my face, and then just like curl up and go to bed. That's usually the routine.
You guys are lucky though. You have fucking White Castle in Vegas.
I never really liked White Castle. It's just so basic.
I mean, I only eat it when I'm drunk. It's not like, oh yeah.
I guess that's kind of the appeal to it. But even when I'm drunk, I'm like, maybe that's just because I'm kind of a little picky. And I'm like, I need something a little better than that. Like,
Though, I don't know if the Vegas locations have it like a traditional actual White Castle like back in the Midwest.
no, they have that big sparkly one, you know.
Well, there's the big sparkly one like across the street from where the Hard Rock used to be, and then there's one up by Fremont, and then there's one in the Link. I know where all the White Castles are, and there's one in Jean on the way.
You do. You seem to be a White Castle fan. Big
'Cause
fan.
They're not in LA. They're not in California at all. So when I'm in Vegas and I've had a couple, I generally.
Oh, you know what? You know where I do want to go? I don't think they have them in Vegas. But sometimes like driving through places, we find them. Waffle House. That's my go-to late night place.
Phoenix is the nearest one.
Yeah. I was like, I don't think they have them in Vegas. It's
Nope.
Yep.
Like, we're in the fucking South. Why do we not have Waffle Houses in Vegas and LA? Why?
Waffle House was also like my high school jam because it was like you go smoke weed with your friends and then you get Waffle House at like 1, 2 in the morning and your parents like don't know and you're like, ooh, you feel like you're so cool and like, you know.
I've spent a lot of time in the South and like I've eaten at a lot of Waffle House. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't understand why they're not out here. Like,
I don't get it either.
It's because that is one thing that boggles my mind about fucking Phoenix. It's like, oh, you guys have Waffle House. You guys have like a bunch of Chicago fucking restaurants opened up down there. There's just shit from all over the country in Phoenix. This is like, why is this here? Why is this just fucking here for all of the goddamn Southwest?
Yeah, or they probably don't open it up in Vegas because they figure it's going to take all of like the drunk late night clientele, like all the restaurants, like no one else will have any business. Waffle House is going to take it all if we open up a Waffle House here.
Sounds great for a Waffle House franchisee.
Yeah, but not for the rest of Las Vegas because everyone's just want to go to everyone's just going to want to go to Waffle House.
It's true. It's true.
That's what I think at least.
Oh, if there was a Waffle House in Vegas, I would definitely be there. Could you imagine how sketchy the Vegas Waffle House would be?
You know what it is? They don't have a Waffle House, but I swear they have something like it, and I drive by it all the time, and it has the same like text where it's like in the same like yellow square like block letters with like the black text inside. I don't remember what it's called, but I drive by it all the time, and it's like they're going for the Waffle House vibe, but it's not, and it's called something else. But it is like one of those like late night 24-hour diners. I've never been in there, and it is in a very sketchy part of town. So
was it up in North Vegas or some shit or?
No, it's kind of like more like downtown Henderson-y, I think.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I never think of any part of Henderson being sketchy.
It's really not, but actually I think downtown Henderson, no offense to anyone that lives in Henderson, I love it, but downtown Henderson gives me big Albuquerque vibes. It's stuck in time. Like the buildings haven't been updated since like the 80s down there, and it's just stuck. And that's how Albuquerque felt when I was growing up there for a long time, just stuck. And I would like, go online and see like the whole world around me and all this technology and people doing all this cool stuff. And it's like the coolest thing we have here in Albuquerque is this amusement park with this scary, rickety 100-year-old roller coaster that could break down at any moment. That's like all we have for fun, really. So, and I didn't even like it. I went on that roller coaster one time and I never did it again because it was terrifying.
Just hearing every clack as you.
Yeah, it was called Cliffs, Cliffs Amusement Park. I don't think it's still open anymore. It was the only, like, one of the only amusement parks in Albuquerque. And I remember there would be like a big middle school trip at the end of every year, and it would be a big deal, like, oh, we're going to Cliffs. It was not that fun.
Oh, no, it's open. It exists.
It's open still.
It opens at 11 a.m. on Saturdays the next time it opens.
Well, there you go. If you guys are still fans of any Cliffs fans out there, I don't have good memories of Cliffs because it was just my friends trying to force me to go on the roller coaster and me hating it.
I see a recurring theme of you not liking people to force you into shit.
Yeah, yeah. And me, little timid me, like kind of just going along with it. But once I like, I think it was like the breakup with the shitty ex that I was like, hey, I don't want to do this. I can actually like say no to stuff and,
Express your agency like I'm a fucking adult. Be like, no, I'm not fucking doing that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good on you. Because some people never learn that fucking lesson.
No, and I think it's really important, especially in this industry, to learn to just, express your agency, And a lot of people are really timid to do it, and it's just sad that people feel that way, And I think that's why most of us end up in like situations that we don't want to be in.
I agree. And as fucked up as it is, I had one of the nicest directors I know say to me years ago, like, we're in an exploitive industry. And it's like, oh, you are literally one of the nicest people I know in this industry, and you're saying this? What are some of the real scumbags thinking?
Mm-hmm.
And he's right. It is an exploitive industry. Like, as one of my entertainment lawyers said to me years ago, like, exploit's not necessarily a bad word, but
yeah, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think we, like, as if we're talking about like the industry and exploitation and all that, I think communication, like we need to not be scared to like communicate with each other more on set and in the moment, and things might be really awkward and we never want to ruin the moment, of course, but I've had to do it before, and I've had to say some stuff, and maybe things are awkward for a couple minutes, but you know what? It's just a moment in time, and things keep moving forward, and you do what you have to.
I agree. But I think a lot of it comes back to what you were saying earlier in the show. It's like, oh, I want to come across as a good performer. I don't want to really ruffle any feathers here because I want to get hired again. And some people unfortunately take that fear a little too far, where it's like, oh, well, if I say something that is what they're asking me is completely out of my limits, out of my bounds, but if I say something, they're not going to hire me again. And then they don't, and it's no good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely like a balancing act for sure of like, well, should I say something or should I just kind of grin and bear it? And you kind of decide whether or not, like, if your boundaries were pushed enough, whether or not to do that. And it's luckily I've only, out of like the almost 7 years that I've been doing this, I've only had like 1 or 2 times where I was like, my boundaries were pushed enough where I was like, hey, I don't really feel comfortable like moving forward with this anymore. So let's like just call it here and let's stop. And usually when you actually say that, the other party is usually quite taken aback, because I think most people don't realize that they're doing something wrong or like off-putting, because we're all really trying to do the same thing at the end of the day, and usually they take it well. There was like one time I had this one guy be a little like sassy with me, but
well, for the most part, people in this industry aren't monsters. I don't think when they're doing stuff like that, it's from a place of malice. It's just a kind of almost, and I mean, there's definitely some people that are doing shit.
They just don't know.
Yeah, but a lot of it is just like absent-mindedness and like, or they have a concept in their head like, this would look cool, and they don't think about like what actually goes into making that look cool. Like, oh, the human body's not meant to do that.
Yeah, absent-mindedness. That's a good word for it too.
Because intent's important. Like, if someone is some misogynist who's like, oh, I can't wait to face fuck this woman until she is fucking puking on my dick, that's malicious. Someone being like, oh, I want to do a facial abuse scene like between 2 consenting adults and I think it'll look good on camera, that's something different. And hopefully that person will be like, bro, this is too much for me. Be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Versus the guy who's like, oh, but I want to watch you.
Yeah.
And unfortunately both exist, but
yeah, and we've seen it. We've seen it happen, a couple times. So,
well, and that's part of the problem with this being a weird outlier industry, which is the crazy thing of like the conservative groups and shit like that want to keep pushing this underground and shit like that. Pushing the industry further underground will allow more outliers to thrive in it, because
absolutely.
People that are wanting to do like a legitimate business if you make this illegitimate again, maybe like, well, I'm not doing that. That's not a legitimate business anymore.
Yeah. And it's really scary now because it seems like we're kind of regressing back in time with really, it just seems like kind of the really far right just like pushing back more than anything on the world becoming more progressive. My partner explains it really well. It's just like a very small group of people making a lot of noise, unfortunately. And so, yeah, I'm just glad that we can still do this legally, and I'm gonna do it as long as I can. And if there comes a point where like I can't do it legally, I'm gonna like start sending up smoke signals or something, and my fans will find me one way or another.
Well, now the question is like, if it were tomorrow become illegal in Nevada, would you be like, okay, I'm moving to LA at that point?
Yes. If it was like, yeah, I don't think it would ever be illegal in Nevada.
It was for quite some time.
Really?
Oh,
I guess just now it's so surprising because everywhere I go now in Las Vegas, it's very like sex work friendly compared to a lot of other places in the U.S.
well, it's always been very sex work friendly.
Yeah.
But like, even when I lived in Vegas in 2011, it wasn't legal to shoot porn there.
Oh, I didn't know it wasn't legal. Was it? Is it kind of like a similar situation here, like L.A., where you need the permits and?
It wasn't that. So California is only legal to shoot porn because of a 1981 state Supreme Court ruling.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, a producer in 1981 was arrested for shooting porn, charged, and when it went to court, it was deemed to be protected under First Amendment rights to make pornography.
Right. I think I did read about this. Like he took it to court and he fought it and he won, right? Yes.
So it's a 1981 state Supreme Court ruling that makes porn legal in California. Nevada, it's only legal now because of a state Supreme Court opinion that they wrote based on California's Supreme Court ruling, but they only wrote that opinion in the last, like, I want to say 5 or 6 years.
That's crazy. I didn't even realize.
When I moved to Vegas in 2011, it was one of those things where, like, the city of Las Vegas would permit people to shoot, but technically by the letter of the law, it was illegal. Like, it's completely illegal to shoot in Florida.
I had no idea. Especially with everything going on in Florida, I had no idea.
Yeah, completely illegal. But at the end of the day, law enforcement has better fucking things to do.
Mm-hmm, I'm sure.
To then police consensually created porn. Every once in a while, you'll hear stories out of like Central Florida of people getting arrested for creating porn and shit like that. Technically, by the letter of the law, it's like California and New Hampshire are the only places where it's truly legal. Nevada has that opinion from the state Supreme Court. But if some legislator or law enforcement really got a bug up their ass, they could potentially arrest you for it. And then you would have to go to court and fight them based on like, well, the Supreme Court issued this opinion. Aren't we good here?
Yeah. Yeah, it's always so freaky to me. I've had the police show up to set one time here in LA, but this was like during the height of the COVID pandemic. And the house we were shooting at was actually kind of a hot spot for a lot of parties. So it was like a shoot location, but someone had been renting it out to party in.
Was it an Airbnb or?
I don't know, actually. This is actually it's an interesting story. I get to the set and there's like notes plastered all over the door, like from the court saying like, you know, you are wanted in court on this date, and they've like missed other court dates. Like they're just getting all these notices all over their door. And so I call the director and I was like, hey, because I was the first person on set. I was like, I know you're not here yet, but should I go inside? Because I don't know if I should. And I like sent him a picture of the door and he was like, hang on a second, and figuring it all out. And the makeup artist got there and he said, okay, well, you guys go ahead and go inside and like just get started on makeup, but I'm going to go ahead and start finding a backup location anyway, because I don't have a good feeling about this. So we get started on my makeup and we were probably not even 10 minutes into makeup and we get the big, like the scary police knock at the door. And she opens the door and she's like, yes, what's going on? And he said, I don't know what you guys are doing in here, but you're not allowed to be in here. I don't know who unlocked the door. You guys, I don't know what you're doing, but you have to get out, basically. And she was like, oh yeah, we're just shooting for Instagram. We'll leave. Like, no question. And he's like, yep. He's like, we turned off the power and the water. So. Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, they made us just get the fuck out. But yeah, that was like during the height of the COVID pandemic, and I know here they were being a lot more strict about it. And that was a scary moment for me though, because I was like, oh my God, the police are here. I'm not supposed to be here. Like I'm doing something bad. I'm shooting porn. Like, all these thoughts start going through my head. But we did find, thank God, it was like a miracle we found another location that day. I really think the porn gods were like looking over for us, because like same day having to find another location is almost unheard of.
Right?
So truly a miracle that day.
That's porn during the pandemic was just a wild place.
Yes, it really
altogether.
was.
Because I worked on a set, as I said, the one that lost power like during the middle of the pandemic, and the reason I was on it is because the whole regular crew came down with COVID, so like it was all the backup players basically.
Well, that was probably a nice sound for you ASMR people,
Right?
Yeah.
Like I was PAing, the lights and sound guy was like the backup guy. The shooter was normally the guy who does the pretty girls. Like we were the crew. It was just like, oh shit.
Yeah, pandemic porn was definitely a trip for sure. We did like Kyle Mason is my partner. We did a few like the home scenes too, where they sent us like the whole like outline of what we wanted to do, and it's basically the same thing as like doing our own content. So that kind of gave us like a good structure on like how to do that,
Nice.
So
That's awesome. Have you ever thought about like doing any like just out for your own content since you have a living partner? Just thought about like doing just outlandish shit, like just like we're gonna set up a green screen, we're gonna fucking space or
no. So we've never done anything like that, but we have done one thing that was pretty crazy before. And let me just preface this by saying, like, yes, we did do something like kind of in public, but not really public, because I used to live in this apartment complex, and it was really nice. But there were 2 different elevators in it, and for some reason, everyone would use this one elevator. The other one would get completely neglected. I never saw anyone use this elevator, ever. And so one time to my partner, I was like, you know what? I want to try doing something in this elevator. I feel like it'd be a really good video. I was like, let's do it at like 2 or 3 a.m. when there's like virtually no chance of like anyone coming in to like see us. And I was like, and even if they did, the hallway was like, it was kind of set up where it was loud enough in the hallway, because I'd had it before where you could kind of hear someone coming up, you know what I mean? Or you could hear the little dings. So I was like, let's just try and do something in this elevator real quick. And we did. That was probably the craziest thing that we did. We didn't full on fuck in there, but I like gave him a BJ, and yeah, no one came in the whole time. Like the whole time.
Why not do full penetrative sex? Just hike up the skirt real quick. Yeah.
I was still scared. I was still like, oh no, like what if someone does? I was like, if it's just a BJ, I can just like, stand up real quick. And
his dick's still gonna be out.
Yeah, yes. But I guess it would have been the same either way.
You're like, he was just peeing in the elevator, officer.
He said that that's any better. Like that's any better, but
well, you had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I guess. I was just down there. I was just down there to...
Babe, we're both not going to jail tonight. Oh, sorry, I'm just you.
Oh, my God. I wouldn't leave him in the dust like that. I'd go to jail for him.
Aw.
I love him.
Aw.
But
that's real ride or die right there. Like, babe, I'd go to jail for you.
Yeah, he's a good boy. I love him a lot.
I'd hope so if you'd go to jail for him.
I would. He would go to jail for me, too, probably.
Oh, you're not certain, though.
No,
We should get him on the phone. You should ask, like, babe, would you go to jail for me?
He's on set right now.
Oh.
But maybe later I'll ask him.
And we're not set up to take a recording from a phone anyways. Yeah. That would be hilarious. Just like, babe, I don't know how to say this for you, but would you go to jail for me? Just don't even give him any context.
Oh my God. He would be like, oh my God, what did you do? What happened?
Like, I can't talk about it. I just need to know.
Immediately.
I just need to know. Yes or no, will you go to jail for me?
Oh my God. He would, that would make him sweat for sure. Not because I'm like super deviant, but I'm a hot girl. We get ourselves into mishaps all the time. Who knows what could happen?
Right? Babe, I flew into LA. Would you go to jail for me?
Yeah, I'll explain later.
Right? I got bail for you. I need to know.
Yes or no question. But
I think you should. I think you should ask.
Should I? Yeah, I'll ask.
Yeah.
I'll ask him later.
I mean, that's a true test of love. Like, there's plenty of things like.
He might say no.
Well, it's good.
But that's because he's such a good boy, and he's like, the moral and correct answer would be no, because da da da, and he would give me a whole like analytical reason as to why not.
That's fine. At least you know. If it ever really comes up, you already know the answer.
Yeah.
Like,
yes, I know.
It's like planning for a fire drill. Like, if someone pulls the alarm, you orderly leave the wherever you're at and you evacuate, and you know how to do it. So when an actual fire happens, you don't freak out like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
So you need to know, like, okay, if he'll go to jail for me, if this ever comes up, he'll go to jail for me. Cool.
I want to say that he would, but he's probably the squarest porn star that I've ever known.
That's quite a title.
So let me talk about Kyle for a minute. He's my partner. He's been in the industry for a little longer than me, and he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he just went back to school, and he's trying not to cuss anymore. So he's just such a good boy. That's like, he's just a really good boy.
I can't relate to any of that.
Me either.
Does that create difficulties in the relationship when you're like, I want to go get sloshed tonight, and he doesn't drink?
No. And I mean, I don't really like get sloshed or drunk, because these days, like, seeing him drink less has definitely like inspired me, where I'm like, you know what, I do want to get my productivity and like just general like quality of life to be a bit better. So it's inspired me to cut back on my drinking. So something like this is like a super rare occasion, as I think it should be, like a fun little treat to do. Or
I do this multiple times a week.
Hey, no judgment. I'm just saying, for me personally, like little like 100-pound, with back problems, it's probably best for me.
It would probably be better for me to get less too, but meh.
But yeah, he's just like such a good boy, and he just really inspires me to be a little bit better too. But no, he doesn't care, because it's nice, because on nights where I am like, oh, let's go out to dinner, and I'm like, I want to have a couple drinks, he's like, yeah, go ahead, I'll drive. So
that's sick.
Yeah.
Built-in DD.
Mm-hmm. He is.
Shit, maybe I should be trying to date a sober girl.
Maybe you should. She can drive you. She can drive you all around.
Yeah, the problem between you and I is, like, I am once again a much bigger person. If I drink so much that like someone has to carry me from the car, I can't imagine that I'd be dating a partner who could carry me from the car.
That's true. Yeah. And I haven't really gotten drunk to the point where he's had to carry me. The last time I got really like bad drunk was probably like Valentine's Day in France. This was pre-pandemic too. And he had actually like set up this whole cute little romantic thing for Valentine's Day in Paris under the Eiffel Tower, and it was great and everything I wanted it to be, but I drank way too much wine throughout this whole thing. And we got back to our like Airbnb around 2-3 in the morning, and it was fun until it wasn't fun. When we got back, it was like that's when all the fun ended, and I was like, ooh, I feel really bad right now, like really bad. The room is spinning and I can't make it stop, and I feel like I'm dying right now.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, that's probably like the worst I've ever been, and it was so bad that the next day we woke up and I was still like in really rough shape, and I was like, Kyle, I was like, please go get champagne. I was like, I need a glass of champagne. I was like, it's the only thing that's going to make me feel better right now. I was like, go get champagne. And so it was like 6-7 o'clock in the morning, and he like goes out and finds a cute little market in Paris, and he gets a bottle of champagne and strawberries and like brings it back to me and nurses me back to. It was the most romantic thing ever.
Oh, that is
very romantic.
Right?
Yes. I mean, I felt like shit, but it was very romantic.
Well, and that's honestly a sign of true romance is someone being for you there when you're fucking sick. Like, it's real easy to be there and like be all cutesy and romantic when everyone's like all dolled up and ready to go. It's a whole nother thing to be like, I'm still there for you, babe, when you're fucked up. You know, there may be an eyelash hanging off from the night before.
Oh, yeah, like I was like puking in the toilet, and it was like so much that like my eyes were watering, that like my makeup was like just tearing down my face because I just could not stop, you know. I like it was like profuse. It was bad.
Right. That's actual romance.
Yes. Uh-huh.
That good on him. Good on.
Yes, yes. He took really there's been a few times where he's taken very good care of me. So, and oh man, I forgot about the Japan time too. This last trip to Japan, I got very sick towards the end, and I don't even know with what. I tested for COVID, it wasn't COVID. I tested for strep, it wasn't strep, but it was something really bad, to the point where like I couldn't really use my throat at all. I couldn't drink, I couldn't eat, and I could barely talk, and even breathing hurt.
Ooh.
Like it was really rough, and I ended up losing a lot of weight, and it was to the point where I was like, do I have to go to the hospital in Japan? I really don't.
You don't want to
do that. So I was like toughing it out, and he had to go out into the city, and like I knew more Japanese than he did, but he had to go out into the city and like find a pharmacy and try to navigate it to get me what I needed to give me like a little bit of relief. And he did. Like he got some stuff for me, but let me just say, like, Japanese painkillers really suck.
Oh, I know.
They suck so bad. They do nothing.
Oh, I know. I know. The last trip, I was downing the equivalent of Japanese Advil like fucking Pez, because, you know, I'd spent the last 2.5, 3 years being really sediment, just sitting in my apartment fucking working and not being very mobile. And then the first 2 days in Japan, I walked 11 miles and my legs went, bro.
Yeah.
So like most of the trip, I'm just like, I need painkillers, because I probably have not walked this much in the last 3 years, let alone in the course of 24 hours.
Yeah.
The painkillers did fuck all.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. He got me like a couple different kinds of Japanese painkillers, and like none of them did like anything really for me. Like there was one where I felt a little bit of relief, but it was kind of more like an antihistamine. So it made me really sleepy, you know? So it was just like.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like it's weird. Like, cause they have some things that we have in over the counter shit that are fucking controlled substances over there. Like Zantac is fucking a controlled substance over there because it has amphetamines in it.
Yeah. Yeah. They're very strict with their medicine out there. So yeah, that was a little scary when I got really sick in Japan, and I lost a lot of weight, and I'm kind of only now getting back to the point where I look good. I think.
And there's nothing worse. One, getting sick just in a hotel room or out of country or wherever. And then flying sick is also fucking miserable.
Oh, the flight was really rough. The flight home was pretty bad. I think like by the end of it, I was very over it. And yeah, like the last leg from like San Diego back into Phoenix, because we were flying back into Phoenix because that's where we had my dogs. My parents were like watching them. So yeah, it was rough.
Oh, that's brutal. Like after getting back to the States, getting your shit, and then like having to do that
one more leg,
and that like 4-hour drive from Phoenix back to Vegas too.
Yeah. Thankfully, we didn't do the drive back right away. Like I was like, I need a couple days to recover, because immediately, as soon as like the very next day I got home from Japan, I went to urgent care, and the doctor didn't even know what was wrong with me. And she was like, well, it just looks like you have a really sore throat. And so she gave me some steroids, and they started working within a few hours, and then I felt better. So,
hey, America, yay.
Yeah, I had to get some steroids, but hey, that made me feel so much better.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Like, I don't think I've ever done a flight that long, like feeling like shit. That's just.
It was pretty rough. I think at one point, like, I can't remember a lot of it. I think I was able to like kind of sleep a little bit, and I wasn't quite all there because I was like still very sick, and you're like in this little like weird delirious like state. I do remember watching the Titanic though. I did watch the Titanic, and I was like, this is a shitty situation. Like, watching the Titanic, I was like, I'm in a pretty shitty situation right now too, but I guess it's not this bad. Like, so.
It worked out all right for Rose.
Just for Rose, though, it would seem. And maybe a couple others.
Mostly Rose.
Mostly Rose.
Like, she got out of her abusive relationship. She got some strange.
Yeah, but then it worked out for the abusive guy too. I wanted him to die. Why couldn't he die?
Oh, he got to live a long life miserable. Isn't that better?
No, I didn't want them to kill Leonardo DiCaprio. He's hot.
Yeah, but like, thankfully he did die. Because imagine having to get back to America and then having to explain Leo to like your family.
Nah.
Like, didn't you have a fiance before you got on that boat?
Yeah, but you went through a whole traumatic, like,
Yeah, they're not gonna. It's the early 1900s. They're not gonna understand that shit. You were betrothed.
I suppose not. This is back when women were still property.
Right.
So.
You were fucking betrothed. Where's your fiance? Who is this weird poor you're fucking?
Yeah. Yeah. Who's this scrappy?
He's a poor.
Yeah.
Like, where? Why? They're never going to approve of this marriage.
I like Leonardo DiCaprio. I like him a lot.
A lot of people do.
I'm too old for him now.
I know.
I'm 28. I will gladly have one more little pour. This is really good.
94 proof, believe it or not.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm doing little pours. Little pours.
Yeah. Believe it or not, that is a 94 proof. It's like a $25 bottle.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
I drink a lot of it because it's really good for the price point.
Well, hey. Cheers.
Well, cheers.
Toast. Oh, it beeped.
Oh,
because it's like the slate.
that's because it's going over to the second file.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And unfortunately, you're in the operator's headset, so
What do you mean? So it means I can hear everything?
because this is actually like a set, audio interface. So if you were operating, doing all the mic operation, the headset you're plugged into is the operator's headset. That's why it beeped to let you know it was changing files.
I see.
I'm in the stereo output that like you would output to the camera.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
A little behind the scenes for the audience.
Yeah. I've never done a podcast myself. I've only, come and like spoken. I think this is my third or fourth time actually doing like a proper sit down podcast.
I know you've done a bunch of remote ones.
I have. You know what? During the COVID, that was like everyone started doing podcasts during COVID. So
I know it was on one hand because I do produce and edit for other people. Like I made some money during the pandemic, but on the other hand, it's just like telling people like, "Oh, I'm a podcaster." Like, "Oh, cool." It's just like telling someone you're an OnlyFans girl during the pandemic.
yeah.
Like, cool. I'm like, no, seriously, I've been doing this since 2016. Like, oh, okay. I didn't just start doing this because I was bored in my fucking apartment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always think about that because people always say, you should start a podcast to me. But it's like, I don't think I'd really have anything else to really talk about other than porn. And I mean, I know a lot of people like porn, but it's like, I talk about porn all the time anyway.
How much porn have we talked about today?
We haven't talked about that much porn, actually. We have not. But I don't know if guys want to hear me talk about anything other than porn.
Well, I'll let you know on the numbers.
Let me know because based on my experience on Chatterbait, I've monetized it to the point now where like if you want to ask me a question about porn, you got to pay because I get so many questions about porn. I just can't be answering them all for free.
Well, the way I look at it is that's a platform for adult entertainment. That's what they're coming there for. If they're coming to iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever they'd be consuming your podcast, they may not be there just for the porn.
That's true.
So if the reality of the situation, it's much like OnlyFans. It's a lot of work to do one of these fucking things. It's not just sit down with microphones and fucking talk.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, if you want it to look and sound good, at least. If you want good shit. Because, yeah, a lot of people can do that and just sit down and talk or just turn on their iPhone and just talk. That's a podcast.
It is. But it's one of those things where, believe me, as someone who edits for a lot of fucking people, not everyone can have a coherent conversation. Everyone's like, oh, I can talk. But can you? Can you actually?
Yeah.
Can you have a conversation with someone else and not trample on them? Can you let them express their thoughts? Can you ask questions? Can you be inquisitive? Can you not go, when they're saying things? Because it's one of those things that, like a normal, real conversation, it's perfectly acceptable to go, yeah, it doesn't benefit your fucking audience in a podcast in any way, shape, or form. And in a lot of cases, it's distracting to the other speaker because they think you're about to interject something, so they may stop their thoughts.
Yeah. There's so many nuances to podcasting. There really is.
And it's honestly one of those things you don't really learn until you've been doing this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I thankfully have the added benefit of, and you just did it right there, by the way.
I know, but I agree with you. It's because I agree. I genuinely agree.
But I also have the added benefit of editing hundreds of hours of other people's stuff and watching other people be like, what are you doing right now? They were in the middle of a fucking sentence. And not to say that I'm not guilty of some of that shit sometimes too. I know my own vocal tics. I know where I fuck up all the fucking time. On a daily basis, as I'm editing other people's stuff, I'm like, oh, no one talks concisely. No one.
No, of course not. And that's just something I think you learn. And like, that's what I learned, like, when it came to like editing my own content as well. You get to a point where you're like, you know what? Just shoot the shit. Just like shoot whatever. It's gonna probably be annoying to go back later and like pick out what's good stuff, but it's probably better to just do that than to like not have enough, I think.
I agree. But you'll see people complain about podcasts, especially, oh, I can't believe they said like so much. Yo, man, this is how real people actually
Real
talk.
people talk.
Take a moment back and listen to the person you're talking to. They will probably say like or I mean, or 100 times in the course of your conversation. Your brain just kind of auto edits it out.
Right now are like, I would never talk like that.
Sure, Lord Fancy Pants. I would never talk like that. That's how commoners speak. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
it's
funny.
But it's one of those things where like, that's why YouTubers often have a lot of jump cuts. Is because that's how they're.
I realized that. Yeah, I realized that. Like, when I started doing more talkative content like this, I was like, damn, I gotta cut a lot of this shit out. It's a whole lot of nothing that I'm saying. Like,
It's true. And you'll notice, like, going through my back catalog, because I didn't start doing the video end of it till 2019. Anything pre-2019 is much more concise on the dialogue. Because I went through and I surgically cut likes, I cut ums. Because it's super easy. Well, it's not super easy to do in audio. It's just much easier to do and make it coherent and not distracting to the audience.
Let me just say, like, I could not edit, like, around the clock like that. Just editing my own content I hate it. I hate it so much. And now, like, with TikTok, I feel like almost obligated to, that I have to, like, it takes like an hour to make like a 10-second clip. I hate it.
It's, believe me,
sometimes more than an hour.
Oh, and that's the thing. Going back to people at the beginning, top of the show, when we're like, "Oh, people say this isn't a job." People don't realize how much fucking work goes into that 10-second, that 1 second, no, that 1 minute clip. I used to work on shit that the client would pay me for 12 hours to cut a 60-second intro.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It takes time. If you want it to look good, you could phone it in and you could do it fast, but it won't look as good. So
yeah, and for what they were paying me, if I phoned it in, I wouldn't have a job for very long.
Yeah.
But all they see is the end product, and in their mind, oh, that's easy. I could do that. And that's part of the problem with both OnlyFans and podcasting is if you're doing it well, it looks easy.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives people the illusion that they could do it. And because there are no barrier of entries to either one of these platforms, camming too, like, what does it take to get into camming? A webcam and a computer.
Yeah, internet.
It doesn't mean that you're going to be good at it. Doesn't mean it's going to be a good product. But to just do the thing takes next to nothing. I could go to Best Buy today and buy a camming setup and be good to go.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's going to be a good product. Doesn't mean anyone's going to want to fap to it. But it's going to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And people go, oh, but it looks so easy. Try to actually make a quality product. There's a reason that mainstream fucking Hollywood, I mean, there is definitely bloat on mainstream Hollywood, but there's a reason that mainstream Hollywood has whole fucking teams for every aspect of a production.
Yeah. Yeah, mainstream sets are insane. Like mainstream Hollywood sets, yeah. I mean, I've been on definitely some porn sets where it's kind of like that, but like, yeah, mainstream set is like on a whole other scale that's really unfathomable.
I think the largest porn set I was on, like, there may have been 10 crew members. Maybe the largest.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've been on some where there's like a little over 30 before, but
That had to have been like a full on, like a
yeah.
Wicked feature or some shit.
Yeah. It was Vixen,
Okay.
and then there was another one where it wasn't Vixen, and it's like a newer company that hasn't come out yet. But yeah, there was like a lot of people on there too.
I mean, but Lansky is famous for spending a lot of budget.
Yeah, you need deep pockets because think about like all those people have to get paid on top of like my rate too, and on top of food and the location, and it's very expensive.
Hell, and I know this isn't an actual rate, but assume those 30 people are all making $200 each. $6,000 right there.
Yeah.
Just for your crew, let alone, you're probably 1,000+ day rates, plus your male talent. Like, say you had fresh off the bus male talent who's making $500 for his boy girl scene. And I'm assuming with that much crew, it's not just one scene. Like, it's a whole feature. So you're looking at, you're ballparking on the very lowest end. Like, that's a $30,000 day.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. Definitely some deep pockets. That's why, I mean, people always ask me, like, would you ever get into producing? Would you ever do this and that? And sometimes I do think about it, and I do have these visions that would be really amazing. But then you go and you read people's stories about being burned, about people not showing up, no call, no show, locations gone to waste, like tests gone to waste. Like, oh, it's rough out there.
Oh, yeah. Believe me, I have people flake on this all the time. There's a reason I keep multiple episodes in the can all the time.
Well, I'm glad I didn't flake today.
I appreciate that.
I made it.
I mean, and in all honesty, if you hadn't made it because you're flying in from fucking Vegas for this, I wouldn't have been mad about it. I've been like, this shit happens.
Yeah, shit happens, but for me, it was, like I said, very easy. Flying from Vegas, 45 minutes in the air. It takes longer to get through the airport than it does in the actual air.
Oh,
usually.
I know. It's just, but people in this industry flake all the fucking time.
They do.
And it's crazy to me because it's like, just tell me something. Literally pick up a phone and be like, I can't make it for X. And I'll be like, all right, cool. You no call, no show, and like, don't respect my time. You're never getting booked again. I don't care if you get to Angela White status. I will never have you on the show.
Yeah, no call, no show is never cool. I completely agree with that. I think giving advance, like, even if it's kind of short notice, it's a little annoying, but at least you're not ghosting someone. I think going ghost is, like, it's one of the rudest things that you can do to somebody. It's just kind of letting them know that, like, you're not really worth my time to even respond to this.
I agree. And I understand for some people, it's an anxiety issue. Like, they're afraid.
They're going to be mad at me.
Yeah. But guess what? I'm legitimately going to be mad at you if you don't bother to tell me that you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
If you tell me, hey, for whatever reason, I'm not going to make it, depending on the reason, I may be a little annoyed. But I'll get over it and we'll rebook.
Yeah. I did have like a friendship kind of fall apart because of the flaking thing. And it wasn't that I was just, being unreasonable about it. You tell me, if you make plans with someone, and if you're in my position in my industry, specifically content plans with someone where you block out one day with someone and they no call, no show, and then they text you like really late at night and they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. This and this happened, and it wasn't really a super legitimate excuse, but you're like, okay. And they're like, let's do something tomorrow. And you're like, okay, I'll do something tomorrow. And you block out the second day and they do the exact same thing. And then they try to like play it off as if it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Let's just hang out some other time. Like, whatever. That's not cool, right?
Nah, not at all. At that point, I'd be like, nah, I'm cool.
Yeah. It kind of, I feel really bad, but it kind of made like, unfortunately, a relationship like fall apart. Because I was like, one day I can understand, but 2 days, that just tells me that like you don't really respect my time. Because this was around 4th of July too, and it was like, I made specific content plans with you on like a holiday that I could have been spending with my family.
Right.
You know?
And it doesn't matter what you were doing. You could have been doing anything else.
Mhm.
Like, it's not your job or your responsibility to justify this to this person what you were going to do with your time that you blocked off to spend with them. All they need to know is you blocked off time to spend with them, and they are not respecting your time. You could have been like, I'm going to sit on the couch and watch TV instead of doing this. That's still your right and your time to do it.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it any less fucking valid. It's still your time.
Mm-hmm.
So fuck them.
Yeah, it was it was definitely one thing that like I was like, ooh, people in this happened years and years ago, and that was like my first taste of like, oh, they just really burned me, like, you know. And I mean, it's happened a couple other times since then, but like, you know, unfortunately it just comes with the business. Sometimes people just like burn you real bad, and it sucks.
They do. And I decided as a content creator, like, I just won't book you. Like, my general rule of thumb is like, you get twice. Unless you completely no call, no show me, yeah, we'll reschedule. You don't do it a second time, you don't show up, I don't really care what the reason is. Unless like it was some crazy accident. I'm never booking you again. I don't care who you are. Like, I don't care how much it will benefit me, because at the end of the day, if I can't count on having that content, I would rather get someone who's enthusiastic about coming here to do the show on than someone who may show up, may not. Because even if I get you on, are you going to promote this? Are you going to follow through with any of the other aspects of what you got to do after I get you off air? Probably not. Mm-hmm. So cool. I get to say X person was on the show. I don't care. I don't care enough.
Yeah, and I just think a big problem with that is too many people like in the industry, or once they get that like influencer status, they kind of think like, well, they need me. They need me, so they're gonna have me anyway. They'll have me back I feel like a lot of people, once they reach that certain point, they think that, you know, it doesn't matter what bad behavior they do, people are going to want them no matter what. And it doesn't always work that way. Maybe they'll have a few suckers, but not many.
Well, and that's a really short-sighted view to have, especially in this industry, because everyone who works in production in this industry talks.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've heard some stories. Everyone talks.
Everyone fucking talks. Yeah. So it's just like, I'm friendly, if not friends, with pretty much everyone else who's in like the adult podcasting space. So believe me, we definitely gossip on people's performances or not showing or.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. There's some fun conversations.
So if someone's an absolute turd or just no call, no shows, oh yeah, other people will hear about it. And
yeah.
And as much as this may help someone's brand, this may not. We'd like to believe that, you know, it does help raise awareness of who you are as a person. You know, helps elevate doing media. You're not just here for your health. This is part of business.
I agree. And yeah, it's just when people reach that level where they think like their shit doesn't stink, especially like in porn particularly, they're like, I'm an influencer. Someone said it really well one time, and they're like, the only thing you influence is erections. You don't really influence much else. So maybe get off the soapbox for a moment.
I agree. And the crazy part is, some of the biggest names in the industry are some of the humblest and best people to work.
They really are. And it's like some of the people, because I can admit when I was like, you get that that like little comeuppance, or where you're like first kind of coming up and you're like, oh, people think I'm really hot and I'm all that and I'm getting booked and I can just treat people however I want. And I didn't necessarily think like that, but I definitely had that kind of like new starlet attitude for a while there. And it wasn't until probably after the pandemic and, you know, having a little bit of reflection where I was like, you know what? I'm not all that. I've been in the industry for a while, yes, but you know what? There's newer and younger people coming in, and I got to do what I can to make myself a desirable talent. And that means working hard and like not having an attitude. And that's just part of growing up, I think, in general.
And it'll see you a long way, because at the end of the day, a lot of productions will look at the fact of like, oh, there are X amount of people with a similar body type to you. And it sucks to break it down like that, but they'll be like, similar body types, who's going to be less of a headache on set?
Yeah. Yeah, that
Like,
happens.
It's like, we need a blonde with this body type, for example. And it's like, oh, well, she's a goddamn nightmare. Nah, I'm cool. They'll find someone else. And everyone fucking talks. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm important or any shit like that, but I've been around for over a decade. The amount of people I've seen fucking come and go in this amount of time is wild.
Same here. It's always weird because then sometimes you sit and think, you're like, oh, that person, whatever happened to that person, or what are they up to now? And you just think about it. I think after you've like been in it for 5 years, I think you kind of like reach that point where you're like, damn, I've been doing this for a while. And
yeah, and the amount of people
stuff.
The amount of people that like you thought were friends are just like, oh, I haven't seen that person in fucking years because they just
disappear.
Yeah, they got a relationship. They found God. Who knows? Who knows? Like, there's 100 different reasons why people exit the industry, and in a lot of cases, people want nothing to do with their former life when they're out. Especially if they're making like what they feel was a traumatic breakaway from the industry, they want nothing to do with anyone they knew from that life.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is just. Yeah, this industry is tough, and it's definitely like you see a lot of like hurt people or people who want to like get fulfillment in some way, and they think this is the way to do it. They think, oh, this is going to be fast money, or I'm just doing this until that. And usually I think what takes people out of the industry is the relationship thing.
Oh, definitely.
Most of the time I feel like it's usually with like the female talent, you kind of see her go away because usually it's a relationship that usually does that.
Right, and then if that relationship blows up, all of a sudden she's back. She's
back. Yep, and like better than ever and hotter than ever, and
Well, and I'm curious, when you initially got in and you were coming out of that shit relationship, was part of the attraction of coming to get validation?
Yes, 100%. I was very low because I had like been cheated on, and he was like cheating on me with like girls from Facebook, and I was kind of thinking like, man, I just because I was still very young then. I was like, I just must not be all that pretty if he thinks like if he's going somewhere else to like find this. So maybe I need to like do something to be pretty again. And so I started the camming, and that's when I was like, oh, these guys think I'm like gorgeous, so I must be hot. And that just kind of accelerated a glow up for me because I was already like, I was the shy, like kind of not necessarily homely, but a little bit more normy. I really didn't dress super flashy. I was like a little bit more conservative. And I think guys on cam kind of like that a little bit more too.
You're obtainable at that point.
Yes, I was attainable. I was like relatable, and they could potentially have a chance with me. But once they gave me that little bit of confidence, it was all over. I bleached my hair, started wearing fake eyelashes, started getting my nails done all the time. Like camming really gave me a huge glow up, and it was great. I loved it. I think it was really what I needed to feel beautiful again. And like I was like, I am actually really pretty. This guy's just an idiot, and he just fumbled. He fumbled hard with me.
And God bless that he did.
Yeah, God bless that he did, because then you guys wouldn't have any of this right now.
You'd be living in Tustin beyond your means, just miserable.
Tustin beyond my means, probably like maybe not necessarily beyond my means, because by the time I like wanted to get out of this relationship, I had just finished school. I got my esthetician's license, and I was doing like eyelash extensions and makeup, and I was actually making pretty good money, but I was like, I'm not happy.
He sounds like the type of guy that would figure out a way to drain it, though.
He probably would figure out a way to drain it. And like he had his own money too, but he wanted me to like meet his standards. This was the problem. We had like a really big age gap. So him and all his friends were way older, and I was way younger, and it was me trying to like grow up too fast and impress him and like really meet the standards that he had already met. And so like when I started, I think he actually got really threatened because we'd broken up when I started camming, and he very pathetically came crawling back and was like, oh, please, I know I messed up, I was horrible and awful. And I was kind of like, Yeah, we can get back together, but I just want you to know that I started webcamming and I really like it and I don't really plan to stop anytime soon. And he was kind of like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I think I'll be okay with that." And 1000% was not okay with it at all. And I think he actually got a little bit threatened by the fact that after a certain point I was making more money than him. He really didn't like that. And I think he didn't like that it gave me freedom more than anything, because he saw me start like dyeing my hair and buying all these things, and it was making him nervous because I was like, I think I'm going to go rent my own apartment now. And he was like, really? He's like, you don't want to live with your family anymore? I was like, no, I think I want to go rent my own place. And he was like trying to have any kind of bit of control that he could still have over me.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof, that was toxic as shit.
Oh yeah, it was this whole relationship is like I could write a whole book on this whole like 4 or 5 years, however long of this period of my life was, because it was pretty crazy. And like I think about it now like as an adult and I'm like, oh my God, this guy was just terrible and he just took advantage of my youth. And like me as like a nearly 30-year-old, I'm like, I could never imagine doing this to like someone younger, like 18, 19. Like, what the fuck would I even talk to them about or like relate to like someone that young about? Like, what was he thinking? Like,
He's thinking it was dick.
yeah, he was, yeah, super. That's kind of like what started my whole, acceleration into sex work, was like that one really bad breakup, the camming. And this is a story I've told to my viewers many times, so they might be tired of this too, but like, spoiler alert, this guy, once he realized he couldn't really keep this control over me anymore, he told my whole family what I was doing, that I was like camming. He told my sister, my mom, my dad, like my whole immediate family, that I was doing porn and sex work. And they freaked out and tried to have like a whole intervention with me because they thought I was a quote sex addict at this point. They thought I was like doing it because I was like addicted to sex. And it was like, not really. I'm actually making a lot of money doing this, and I kind of don't want to stop it because of that now. Maybe it started as like validation, but now it's money that's keeping me going. And so yeah, they tried to get me to stop too. And once they realized, I was like, I don't really want to stop doing this. I want to keep doing it. That's when everyone was kind of like, well, you're only going to last a year. You'll see. Someone younger and prettier is going to come and replace you. You won't last. That was like everyone's attitude, really, when it came.
I mean, statistically, they're not wrong.
No, they're not wrong.
But it's not someone coming to replace you that causes people to be out in a year. It's just because it's a stressful place, and there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of things that cause a lot of people are in the industry that should have never been here in the first place.
Oh, for sure.
And a lot of people are here because they want that validation, or it's survival. It's monetarily survival. There's 100 different reasons people end up here, and yeah, some people shouldn't be here. Like, it's one of those things where, like, whenever I have civilian friends who are like, I'm thinking about getting into sex work, I'm like, you need to take a step back and really give this a long, hard look before you do this.
Absolutely. I agree. I've had a couple of friends before like give me those like late night phone calls or text messages where they're like, "Hey, I really need your advice for something." I know it starts off bad when they're like, I need money really bad. So how do I start an OnlyFans? How do I do this and that? And I always say, I'm like, if you need money really bad, that's probably not the best attitude to come with it. And I always preface it by saying, I'm not going to lie to you. You can make money really fast and really easy. There is a way you can do it in this industry, but you're probably going to regret it. I can tell you how to do it, but is that really what you want to do? I
mean, you can tell them how to do it, but there's no guarantees that they'll actually make it.
That too. I'm like, there's no guarantee that like you send your pictures to this agent and he's gonna like want you, or you'll necessarily be what they need, or like if they don't want to like dive into mains, because usually what I tell them is they think I'm gonna start an OnlyFans and I'm just gonna make all this money right off the bat,
right?
And it's
not at all. And I believe I was talking to Jessica Ryan about this almost a year ago at this point. The average OnlyFans creator makes $160 a month.
I was talking to my partner about this because we were like looking at the actual percentages of it and like figuring it out in our head. And yeah, we came to much of the same conclusion. It's crazy.
Yeah, like, do you want to show your genitals to strangers for $160 a month?
Yeah.
I hate to break it to you, driving Uber is more profitable.
Mm-hmm. It really is. Yeah, and that's the thing. They think I'm just going to start this and everyone's just going to want to see me naked because that's what people want. They just want to see me naked. But you usually like you need that fan base first, and that's why I always tell people you should really delve into webcamming first to build that fan base. Or if you're, I guess, really that desperate for money, you could dive head first into mainstream porn, but you don't necessarily know if they're going to want you for that, depending on how you look, how you perform, and do you really want that out there? If you're doing this just for money and nothing else, do you really want that out there forever? And some people like who are a little bit more civilian, they have a lot more nuanced feelings about sex than we do, where it's just like really performative most of the time. So,
And if you're really that broke, can you actually afford to break into mainstream? Can you afford to get fucking pretty girls taken? Can you afford to go get tested? Because you're going to have to do all that before you step foot on a single fucking set.
wardrobe, like,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you, like, I would imagine just off the top of my head, if you were a day one performer trying to break into studio mainstream porn, it's $1,000 out of your pocket.
Oh yeah, it's expensive. That's why I'm glad I started off as a cam model and kind of had a lot of my own money actually before I got started, because they were like, "Oh yeah, you got to come to Florida and you got to pay to get tested and this and that." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I can do that," because I had already had my own money at that point, and the porn money was just like extra.
Exactly. And for someone who has success in camming or OnlyFans and stuff like that, mainstream's just great marketing for them. But if, day one, you're gonna, and on top of it, you may spend $1,000 on wardrobe, makeup, because depending on the set, you may have to show up hair and makeup ready. They don't always provide a makeup artist. Say you don't have to provide your own hair and makeup. Still, you have to provide wardrobe, your testing, your transportation, probably pretty girls to send to agents in the first place for someone to pick you up.
Mm-hmm.
You're out $1,000 plus. And that test, that $250 test you spent, you may not get shot again in the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So you just spent $250. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like a starting boy girl rate's still around 800.
Yeah, 800, 900. Mm-hmm.
So off the bat, you are down $400.
Yeah,
you are down $400 from assuming, like, unless you're lucky and they're like, we're going to get you shot multiple times in the first 2 weeks. You are down $800 entering the porn industry. Or
people don't think about that. They really don't.
And then on top of it, it's like, okay, how many scenes till you break even? How many scenes? Like, it may take a minute before you actually see any fucking money. And if you're really that broke, you're really that desperate, go fucking DoorDash. Like, you will make faster money. It may suck.
Sex work isn't for everybody. It's not a cakewalk. And maybe like a few years back, maybe arguably like 5 to 10 years ago, it might have been a little easier, but now it's very hard,
Well, I think as someone who's been around since that shift, 10 years ago, there was only studio work. Like, if you weren't, yes, camming existed, but it was fringe. Like, internet speeds weren't there. It just wasn't as popular. The majority of people were doing studio work. Well, there's only so many mainstream scenes being shot a fucking week. That really was a time where it's like, oh, you really are competing with a lot of fucking people for this work.
Yeah.
You fast forward to now, I wouldn't recommend anyone getting into this unless they're willing to be their own production house. Like, if you don't know how to shoot camera, if you don't know how to edit, don't fucking do it.
I agree.
At this point, just don't, because you can't survive. I know so many people that have tried in recent years to just survive off of shooting, like studio shoots and stuff like that, and they're barely scraping fucking by.
Yeah, you really can't unless you're like a top like point something percenter, and you can consistently get booked like at least like 10 days out of the week or more. But even still, like, do you want to shoot that much all the time? Like,
Well, but how many of those top percenters are not actually just killing it on OnlyFans, really?
oh yeah, and like they realize it too. Like, why put yourself through all of that, And I mean, I'll shoot and gladly, like any day. But yeah, I do agree that yeah, what's to stop them from just going on OnlyFans and doing it themselves?
Yeah, or hiring a production team for themselves at that point where
And that's what most people do anyway now.
Yeah.
They just have their own little production and their website is basically just their OnlyFans. There's so many stars like that now. And it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad business model.
Honestly, I think it's really the only successful business model in adult at this point because, as I said, there's no guarantees in this job whatsoever. And say you're at a 1,200 rate. You shoot, if you're exceptionally lucky, 10 scenes in a month.
Yeah, if you're really good, you can get 10 scenes in a month.
Right. You are grossing $12,000 for the month. Grossing. Not counting your transportation costs, not counting...
Can't live in LA on that.
Right. Not counting your transportation costs, not counting your testing costs, your wardrobe, any other, like, living.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you really have? Like, some of that's being kicked back to your agent, too. How much are you really taking home at the end of the month? And that's assuming you can actually shoot 10 fucking scenes a month.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. Yep, not a cakewalk, guys. So porn is not an easy job.
And that's assuming you're the woman in the situation. If you're a dude...
Yeah, if you're a dude, you have to work 10 times harder. Yeah, it's rough out there for dudes. But, I mean, you kind of have to prove yourself as a dude because, so many dudes, I don't know how many times we get the message every day, get me into porn, please. Oh, please tell me, how do I get into porn? And usually my answer is, why the fuck are you asking me? I'm not a dude. Ask a dude. Like,
And my answer to you is, start jerking off on OnlyFans for dudes.
Yeah, start jerking off for other dudes first.
Because at the end of the day, I am certain you've had same partners that you were not necessarily attracted to, that you wouldn't necessarily have had shit to do with in a romantic or sexual way offset.
Nope, but I'm a very good actor, and that's why I get paid the big bucks.
Exactly. So when dudes are like, "Oh, well, I'm not into dudes," like, duh, man, we know you're not into dudes. You better sell that you are.
Yeah, sell that you are, or just. Yeah, I think what it is now is like OnlyFans is kind of glamorized because they think, oh my God, anyone can go and do porn now. All I got to do is just like bang a bunch of hot girls on my iPhone and they think that's porn. And they ask me, how do I get into porn? And I'm like, I think you just want to make like amateur hookup sex videos. You don't want to do porn because if I told you what it took to actually do porn, I don't think you would want to do it at the end of the day.
But at the end of the day, yes, there is definitely a difference between those two things. But we should still consider that porn, right?
It is porn. And I had this conversation the other day because someone was trying to say like, oh my gosh, like there's a big difference between cam girls and porn stars and OnlyFans people. And I was like, well, ultimately to the consumer, it doesn't fucking matter to them. It's all porn. Like, right. To them, it's all porn. So
to them, this is how I achieve my orgasm.
Yeah. It doesn't matter to them. So
it's just artificial barriers that we as an industry put up. Like
we do, and there's this one sex worker who I'm like, I don't really talk to her anymore, but she did make a very good point when I first got into the industry that there is like certain levels of classism in this industry, which is really dumb when you think about it, because there's nothing that really makes me any better than the girl who's working on the street right now. We still both do the same thing, like ultimately.
Societally, I disagree. As a moral and like reality, I agree with you. On a societal like judgment level, I understand why people differentiate because someone had to approve you. Some gatekeeper had to open a door and say, you are good enough to be on our box cover, to be on the back. And that is the difference between where some of the classism comes from versus OnlyFans versus being a studio performer, is someone has to book you to be in a studio.
Yeah.
Vixen has to book you. You have to be good enough to work for Wicked, to work for MindGeek, someone has to sign off on it. Anyone. Literally, the minute we wrap here, I could go into my bathroom, fire up my cell phone, rub one out, and be an OnlyFans star, potentially.
I think you could do it.
Don't want to. That is also a conversation I've had with the audience multiple times, which is just like, when I got in, there was only studio work, and I never wanted to be male talent, like, because I don't think I could do the job.
It's tough. I don't think I would want to be male talent. I always tell them all the time, like, you have a really hard job, literally and figuratively. Like, it's a hard job.
It is. And for me, I like choosing who I have sex with. I make poor choices all the time, but they're choices. I have an average penis, and I'm not sure I could get it up with someone like me standing over me. Those are all the realities of the job. And at this point in the modern era, like, I've been saying no for so long that it's just like, I don't know why I'd say yes at this point. Because I've had people be like, oh, I really want to bang you, but I only want to do it for my OnlyFans. I'm like, no, I'm cool.
Yeah, that's also like, it's not a very nice thing to say to someone. That's not very nice.
Well, I get it. They're like two birds, one stone. I get it, but I still said no.
Yeah, that's weird.
There's some weird people in this industry.
There are very weird people. I'm sure we could talk about the weirdies that we've encountered. But
I'm sure there's someone else out there who'd be like, those two, the weird, fucking weird.
Yeah, maybe I'm a weirdo. And to anybody that I potentially weirded out, I'm really sorry, but I don't know what else to say other than we're in a very weird and nuanced industry, and if I weirded you out, just communicate with me. Just talk to me. If we had more communication in this industry, we would have a lot less problems. Because I think a lot of the times when I go on Twitter and I'm like, this talent did this, and that, and blah, 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 and I agree that you are totally allowed to feel the way that you feel in a moment. Totally valid. I just think situations could always be handled better by just talking to someone and just communicating. You're in a very like vulnerable position, like having sex at any given point. So I think communication is so important. And I've definitely made situations uncomfortable before where I'm like, hey, don't do that. Or like, hey, I didn't really like when you did this to someone. And it's weird for a minute, but then usually most people are very reasonable and they say, I'm sorry, and you move on.
And if they're not, you go, welcome to my no list.
Yeah. Yeah. And usually that's the point where it's like, all right, I'm going to do what I can to finish this scene. And then after that, it's a conversation with my agent. And, you know, I've never really had to take any like issue to Twitter before.
Well, and I think taking the issue to Twitter is a bad move in 99.9% of the time.
I think a lot of people might disagree with you there. I mean, I think usually yes, but that's because I always think that like this is why people view the industry like in the really stigmatized way that they do. And there are very shitty things that go on and happen still. But it's just I just hate giving fuel to these like religious extremists fire usually, because anytime I've had a really bad issue on set, and granted, I've never experienced anything as horrific as some people have, so maybe I'm in no position to talk on this either. But with that being said, I've never had an issue that I haven't been able to solve like offline with my agent. Like I've always been able to usually get things resolved and solved and never had to make a huge affair out of anything.
Well, and then I think that's the right way to handle it. And part of the problem with going to Twitter is, one, you get the court of public opinion of people that are not involved with it, and piling on. And in a lot of cases, whoever tweets first is right. Like, if so-and-so did X and it hits Twitter, that person is never going to be able to defend themselves in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, it's like who's on first.
Yeah, it's a mess. It becomes an absolute mess. And I understand the desire to do it if you feel wronged and you feel you have no other recourse but to put this person on blast.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the emotional desire to do it. It just, I don't know what it really solves in the long run.
I think, yeah, like I said, I think it's more of a setback than anything because people outside the industry say, like, look at this. Look at how horrible these girls are being treated in this industry. It's so exploitative. It's so horrible. And in some ways, yes, it can be. But in other ways, this industry gives a lot of people the agency to make decisions for themselves. And taking it away would take that away and take away a lot of money in a lot of people's pockets. And
It would. And there's no easy answer.
there isn't.
Because it's not like we're organized enough to force out some of the more unsavory members of the community. Like, there are definitely people that have multiple allegations against them that are still operating, thriving. People still love to shoot for them in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
And will go to bat and be like, they've never done me wrong. So it's like, what do we do in those situations? Like, well, we have a bunch of people here who say that that's not the case, that they were pretty fucking bad. And then we have a bunch of people who are, they're avid defenders and will lovingly work with them. It's like, what do we do? What the fuck do we do at that point?
Yeah, there's really no easy answer. There's really not. It's just kind of like, it's a business like anything else at the end of the day. It's just ours is sex, which happens to be like a highly vulnerable thing, you know?
Well, and the problem is, like, I don't think for the most part, our end user cares if this was done ethically, or they just care about getting their net. Like,
Yep.
the amount of people that will be like, I'm not eating a fucking Chick-fil-A because of their views on homosexuality and what they're doing to, communities. Like, fuck Chick-fil-A, we're out. I don't think anyone's boycotting anyone. I don't think anyone's ever like boycotted a Ron Jeremy scene. I can freely say that one because, jail.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's when we can all really agree on.
Yeah. No one. I don't think anyone's being like, oh shit, Ron Jeremy's on screen. Put my dick away.
Yeah.
I mean, you should, because for other reasons, but
Yeah.
gross. But I think that's the biggest difference, is like, our end user at the end of the day just cares about consuming the product. They don't really care what went into making the product.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. That's why on Twitter these days, I just post pictures and videos because I'm like, they don't really care that much about all this other stuff. If they do want to like see what's really on my mind, they can come and watch something like this. And like,
I hope that they do.
I hope they do. I think they will. I definitely know quite a few of them that will.
Well, I appreciate y'all.
Yes.
But, and what's wild is, on the political front, it's like, unless someone is super outspoken about their politics, like they're like, yo, I fuck for Trump or some shit like that, no one cares. It's only, and I feel like the people that care about like someone who's super right wing or some shit like that, it's just because, once again, they're like, oh, that person's obtainable. Her and I are both MAGA heads or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I have no idea, if we're even trying to change this as an industry, and B, even if we wanted to, how could we? How could we get?
Excuse me.
Are you okay?
Oh, that one got me. Ooh, it's spicy.
I have not lost a guest yet. Please don't be the first.
I won't. Ooh, that was spicy. Ooh.
Down the wrong pipe, or just
a little bit, just a little. It wasn't as bad as yesterday. It was really sweet. I was on set and they got me like a little birthday cake. They surprised me because it was my birthday.
Oh shit! Happy birthday!
I was so excited to eat this cake. I like inhaled it and like a piece of red velvet cake went down the wrong tube and I was coughing for like 5-10 minutes. Everyone thought I was dying, but I was not.
Oh, I'm
very excited for my cake.
Well, if you had died yesterday, I probably would have accepted that as an acceptable reason for not being here.
Yes. Yep. Well, I'm here, even despite choking on red velvet cake.
And whiskey.
And whiskey. And my flight wasn't delayed. So that's why I got a kind of earlier flight. Because I was like, I don't want it to get delayed.
Good call.
Mm-hmm.
Good call. But I wanted to circle back on the like, I don't know what we do as an industry. Like,
what do we do as an industry?
Just if we if we even have the desire to want to change our customers' minds on them caring how this shit is actually made.
I think we've been doing things so long for one way, and we found that it kind of works this way, and we're probably going to keep doing it this way for a long time. That's kind of the way I see it.
Well, that's just how humanity works. Like, I'm very much of the opinion that humans only change if they're forced to change. We are a species that is very adaptive, but if we're not forced to adapt, we don't.
Yeah, we won't. That's why it's so good to unlearn and learn new things. I think that's a really important thing to do in today's society.
I agree.
It's tough, but it's doable.
Well, and back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show. That's why I feel more people should travel and see other cultures.
Oh, I agree. 100%. Yeah, I think traveling is definitely one of the best things that you can do. And like spend your money on. It's an experience. All about spending money on experiences, which is why I went to Disneyland for my birthday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How was it?
It was a lot of fun. I haven't been to Disneyland in the US since pre-pandemic, so it was really good to get back. And obviously when I lived like in Orange County, I had a pass and I was going all the time. I definitely couldn't afford that either, but I was doing it anyway. And it was good to go back. I did go to Disney Sea in Japan though in April, so I got a little spoiled with that. And I was like, this is cool, but it's not as cool as Japan, of course.
Of course.
But yeah, Disney Sea in Japan, though, that's pretty fucking cool.
I'm not a big Disney person, but I'd be willing to go to Disney in Japan.
You should. You can get beers there. You can get like a beer and a turkey leg and walk around and see all the cute Japanese girls in their like twinning outfits. And it's a great time. They have great rides there. And if you think our animatronics are like really good in the United States, like on the Japanese rides, they're like out of this world good. They're very ahead of it.
I can only imagine. I'm down. I want to go back soon. I always have this debate of like, go back to Japan, see somewhere new. Go back to Japan, see somewhere new.
But that's the thing with Japan. It's just it has so much to offer. Like it's such a small like island, but there's so much to see and explore on it, and you can never see all of it.
I've never made it out of Tokyo.
Yeah, you can never even make it out of Tokyo. It's so amazing. And you want to know something funny? I've been to Italy. I've been to Japan. I love noodles. I love spaghetti. The best spaghetti I ever had was in Japan and not Italy. The best spaghetti ever has been in Japan, always.
That is one thing I love about Japanese culture is just like they take something, they find something, and they're like, we're going to perfect this.
We're going to make this perfect. Yeah. It was perfect spaghetti. I was like, the noodles are perfect. The sauce is perfect. I feel like I will never have spaghetti this good in my life, and I never have. Ever.
And I'm sure it's not a place you could be like, oh, it was here. I'm sure it's just some random spot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I did try to find it again, and I couldn't, but we found another spaghetti place that was very similar, and it was probably just as good. But, like, it's not as good as I remember that, like, initial like mind-blowing Japanese spaghetti experience, because it was at a restaurant that specialized in just spaghetti. They had like all kinds of different ones.
Oh, that sounds good.
So good.
And that is my one like complaint / like just thing I love about Japan is just like, oh, the streets are laid out so fucking weird. It's really hard to find shit again. Like my very first trip, we found a ramen spot that like was willing to serve us, and it was fucking delicious. Could not find it again on that trip.
Oh no, that's just such a bad feeling.
Found it again in 2016, but we had already eaten, and it was just like, that place, I fucking found it. Yeah. Too bad we already ate. And then this trip, I found it like my first day, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm eating here.
Was it good?
Oh, it was still so fucking good.
Yeah.
Still fucking amazing. It was just like, oh.
Do you want a recommendation when you go back to Japan?
Of course.
One of the best burgers you will ever have is in Japan at a place called Whoopi Gold Burger. It's in Shinjuku, I think, or Harajuku, somewhere around there. Whoopi Gold Burger, one of the best burgers you will ever have. We had to wait like an hour for it because it's a really small restaurant and there was a line, but you know, even within that hour, they got a lot of people in and out pretty quick. So good. It was my second time actually going there this last time. The only reason I went is like I said, they have like a whole little Vice bit about it where they talk about it, and such a good burger. Don't quite know how to describe it. Oh, we have a guest.
It's in Shibuya.
Hi. Oh, it's in Shibuya.
It's in Shibuya.
Yeah. I was like, I know it's somewhere like, yeah, Whoopi Goldberger. You need to try that. It's so freaking good.
Yeah, no, I will definitely check that out next time I am in Shibuya, because I spend a lot of time in Shibuya.
It's a good area to be. It's a really good area to be. I mean, Tokyo, can't really go wrong with Tokyo. My favorite place in Japan is not Tokyo, though. It's Fukuoka.
Where's that at?
So, I think it's a little more north, I believe. And it's kind of like Seattle. It's like Japanese Seattle vibes. It's a city that's very functional. You don't really have the tourist traps like Tokyo, all that stuff in your face. It's a good look at a very functional city in Japan. And a lot of like Japanese people actually travel there to like vacation because it's very like hipster, I guess is the best way I could describe it. There's a lot of like newer restaurants, jazz joints, there's a lot of really good street food there. I think that's my favorite place in Japan. And the only reason I knew about Fukuoka is because I went to Evo with my cousin, like in 2018 or something. And it was like his first time ever out of the country. And my uncle was like, hey, I know you've been to Japan before, and I'm really scared of letting so-and-so go by himself. So will you please go with him? And I was like, any excuse to go to Japan. F yeah.
Because otherwise it's like, Japan's honestly the safest place you can send him.
Oh yeah, I was kind of like, I don't really see why he's worried about that, but yeah, I'll go. Like, I'm not gonna say no.
Right?
Like,
Yeah, it's super dangerous. I'm there to make sure he's okay.
yeah, I'm there to make sure he's gonna be just fine in Japan. This nice tall white boy, I'm gonna make sure he's safe in Japan. Like, so.
Well, I will definitely check that out next time I'm there. Like, I'm hoping. I mean, I don't think I'm going to make it back this year. I got a tentative offer from someone to like go check out the Japanese version of AVN.
Oh, yeah. I saw an adult expo in Taiwan recently that looked really cool. But
Yeah, I know a bunch of people that went to that too.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't know they did something similar in Japan.
They do.
I would love to go to that. I don't know if I have enough of a Japanese fan base, though.
Well, there's one way to make one.
There is one way to make one. I have a couple of Japanese fans that will come and like talk to me on Chatterbait, but I feel like Chatterbait isn't really as popular in Asia as it is in like Europe and Western countries.
Well, only one way to expand the fan base.
What? Just shoot?
Just go.
Yeah, I'll just go. I'll just go and I'll just shoot more. I would love to.
Yeah, I don't know, but you're right. I don't know if they're into gaming.
Not so much. I feel like they're still a little more traditional and they kind of like their porn, their movies, I think. I could ask Makoto and get what his perspective on it and see, but I do occasionally get like a Japanese viewer on my cam show, but it's really not that often. They're usually European or American.
Huh. I wonder if it's because sex work, like in-person sex work, is still very prevalent there.
I would say so. You know what's interesting about Japan too is I see a lot of like porn stars, they very regularly host events like in adult stores where they're just there like signing their movies, kind of like authors like signing books, only they're in adult stores and they have their fans come and they just like sign DVDs and take pictures and that kind of stuff. And you don't really see that here.
Yeah, once in a while I go.
It's really like AVN, like the stars here are like that's the like AVN conventions, Exotica, when people like go and mingle with the fans.
Or if you're feature dancing.
Yeah, or feature dancing. But it seems like a very regular thing in Japan for the talents to go to adult stores and like do signings of their movies and stuff. Interesting.
Yeah, that is.
Mm-hmm. So that makes me think that like it probably like the movie stuff is more popular than like.
I mean, their industry actually generates more a year than ours does.
Really? I had no idea. That's crazy.
Yep.
Wow.
And that also could be just due to less piracy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what all the factors in is why the Japanese industry makes more than ours does.
Honestly, I could see the less piracy being a big part of it because Japanese people don't steal. Like they can like leave merchandise outside of their stores and people aren't going to take it or steal it. They're very honorable. So
I mean, it blew my mind being at Shibuya Station and seeing hundreds of bikes just unlocked.
yeah.
Like, could you imagine Union Station in any major city in the US and like leaving hundreds of bikes unlocked? There would be 0 bikes left.
Yeah, I thought about that too. Like, that's probably a big part of it because Japanese people don't like stealing. Or like one time I went to a bar in Japan and like on the bar top, they just had all their alcohol like just kind of laid out there and they were just grabbing it from the bar top and like mixing drinks there. And I was like, if you try to do that in Las Vegas in the United States, some idiot would like grab one of those bottles, some drunk idiot, and just like start drinking it and like pouring it everywhere. And
oh yeah, they'd either slam the bottle or someone would drug it or
yeah, something would happen in the States, but in Japan they had like enough honor to like just not do something like that.
It's crazy. It's such a different culture.
It really is.
I hate to do this, but I got to call last call. You know, we've been at this for over 2 hours already.
I know. I hope I did a good job. I hope I'm a good conversationist.
We wouldn't have
Conversationalist?
We wouldn't have gone over 2 hours if you weren't.
Okay. All right. Good. Good.
But before we get you out of here, where can they find you on the things?
So, guys, if you want to find me on OnlyFans, Chatterbait, and Twitter, my username is exactly the same. It's Hime X Marie, HIME X MARIE. But if you want to find me on Instagram, I am corndog_princess. Make sure it's the right one. There's a lot of fakes of me on there, and I may not pop up right away because Instagram really doesn't like me. But there can only be one corndog princess, and it's me.
Hey, man, thank you for doing the show. It's an absolute pleasure.
A pleasure, for sure.
And until next week.
Until next time, guys. Have a good one.
Drink up, motherfuckers.